And here we go for this year's Grand Finals of the OCS. My name is Skimmy. Juves, as always, is alongside me to decide and figure out of these teams that we have here today, which will be the final one to make a name for themselves. We started off with 11 teams. That's been narrowed down to 2. And out of those 2 teams, they finished the split in first and second respectively. Now only one single hurdle remains. It's a single best of 5 to decide which team can continue their consistency, their momentum, their strength, and their outright dominance to make it here today. And Jubes, you know, we've seen that it hasn't been the easiest finishing line towards it. I mean, we take into consideration Cubs as our first team. They had the flawless split. We thought it could have been the flawless run coming into this one, but there was that one game that the Tigers were able to take away in that semi-finals that upset the balance.
Yeah, I mean, technically they're still undefeated, right? You know, it was a best of 3. They lost one game, and they're technically still the winners of that series. But yes, their perfect record has been tainted. They no longer have the opportunity to lose 0 games this split. But you know, the one team that I want to talk about is UQU. For me, it's the perfect underdog story, right? I think, you know, in everyone's power rankings at the start of the season, I don't think anyone really put them up there, right, in terms of, you know, grand final contention. And to their credit, they've managed to form an identity and have some very good team play. And, you know, they're in the grand finals now, and you can't say that they don't deserve to be here, because for me, that week on week, they're the team that looks like they get better every week.
They certainly do, and we've seen that as a glimpse coming into the grand finals, sort of seeing what they did in the semis there with the Talia. Pantheon springs to mind most importantly, strong from level 1, showcased that this is a composition that had some very narrow points of strength. You know, you talk about Pantheon, needs to get ahead early. They had a single Talia AP, needed to get ahead early, but both of them got fed. The link up between both Unshackled and Amateur was superb, and I start to wonder, you know, if these players can continue to show up like those two, like Wei also on the side of the Cubs, mid lane in particular, I feel like is going to be an area of a great deal of spice.
Now, if there's one person who I know is not playing today, and probably he's not playing today, I'm going to say, and it's going to be Udisoft. I think he's whipped a little bit too hard, and he did whip his shoulder out of socket. So why not? Safe to say, why not? We'll be playing all 5 games, and yes, he has been the starter for I think all of the playoff games, and even, you know, leading up to the end of the season. But you know, definitely safe to, I just wanted to get that out there. Safe to say Udisoft will not be playing.
I am really glad you brought that up, because he only played twice. Obviously, the Cubs with him and Cupcake in the mix would have a ton of experience at this level compared to their opposition. When he played twice, he played Evelyn. Undefeated on the Evelyn. Whiplash is in the kit. He whiplashed IRL. He's made it now 3 from 3. He's a man of content. He needs wins. He needs broken bones. He needs memes.
I would say, though, that, you know, that's probably, to be honest, if there's no recurring injuries that come from this dislocation, it's probably a worth trade. Like, man's got front page Reddit. He's blown up. I would take a dislocation somewhere for that amount of fame and that amount of success. As if you wouldn't.
Of course.
Yeah.
The amount of content I've seen come out as a result, as you already mentioned, going onto Reddit, going onto Twitter, now his own organization, memeing it. He's running with it, right? You know, the pain and suffering, you do it for clout, and obviously it's paid off for him this time.
That's another Cubs need a win for him.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, the Cubs as an organization, basically showcasing what they can do. And I think we just got the word there from Juicer that we are not too far away from Champion Select. So I'm kind of excited for that one here, Juice. A best of 5, the first time we'll actually get to see these teams really tested into it. I mean, we've had the best of 1 in the regular split. We had the best of 3s with those quarters and semi-finals. But the best of 5s that we've seen in the OPL, it's a whole new beast to contend with.
Yeah, I mean, there's like best of 3s and then there's best of 5s. You know, you don't get to really get that level of adaptation in a best of 3 because it is just so short. You know, where we have, you know, UQU who have some, you know, funky pick bands where they're able to just play certain champions, you know, the Pantheon and things like that. And they're very valuable in best of 5s because you can almost do it 2 times and you have some things to fall back on. So, you know, again, Cubs having that experience, Cupcake being in that roster for me is just enough to really solidify and get them over the line, because also for a lot of these coaches, it might even be their first time drafting in a best of 5. And so just having that level head and saying, no, this is how we've done it before. I've done this heaps of times. This is what we need to do. Is probably going to pay dividends. And, you know, I was thinking about whether or not UQU would pay respects to the Bard, because you know that if it's open, Cupcake's going to take it. And now that can be a good thing and a bad thing, because potentially UQU could have, you know, formulated a pick or a situation in which the Bard just gets heavily punished. I thought we might see that, but they've just decided, you know what, it's not worth it. We're going to give him his best champion. Even if we're able to punish lane, he's going to go out of lane and still be able to make those plays that really punish most teams.
Well, here we go, Juves. As you say, it's the first game. What can they look to try and achieve? What can they try and punish? One patch 10-15. We're locked in here for the OCS on that patch. And we'll get to see what comes on through. Both these teams, a lot of new blood, a lot of new opportunities here to sort of test that mental, showcase that consistency that's brought them into this place today. But will that competitive edge, will that experience edge that the Die-Cubs possess be enough to take them across that finishing line? 10-15 obviously saw the big buff to Caitlyn. No surprise here as to why that's been locked in as the first pick, but the immediate response from the Die-Cubs is let's get some long-range harass to match it with the Jhin, and Volibear just to force summoners on cooldown.
Yeah, and Volibear is still quite good on this patch, right? This is 10-15, and it is still kind of one of those champions that we expect to see in terms of priority, because it doesn't really have a bad jungle matchup, and a lot of the time that Volibear does have one, you just avoid the jungle matchup. You hit level 3 and you just gank a lane anyway, and you know, before you know it, if you get your Cinderhulk uninterrupted, then there's nothing that can really bully you out of the jungle anymore. You know, the weakest part of Volibear's kit is level 1 and 2, and it is quite hard to punish in a competitive sense. So I like what they're doing there, and Caitlyn first pick, yep, but Jhin as a response. So Jhin traditionally seen picked into Ashe. Doesn't have a terrible lane into Caitlyn either. Out of all the ADCs left, it is probably like the most playable and the one that you would have the most success on. So far, Die-Cubs looking like they're having a real traditional pick ban, and you know, if anything, UQU are the ones. The thing that I got my eye on here is that Amateur actually got his hands on his Zoe, and it's been perma-banned from him for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. So I'm quite excited to see whether or not he can, you know, link up with his jungler Unshackled, or just really free himself up just through superior laning.
And I think it's a really good place to start in this one, because that was what I wanted to mention. The fact that it's been banned away all the time during the regular split. Last week into the Tigers, not a single game was the Zoe allowed. The fact that when it is let through, it's an insta-pick. Doesn't care about their matchup. He knows that this is a champion I made my name on. This is a champion that people fear me for. This is a champion I'm going to showcase what I can do with. We talk about a pick potential that Zoe possesses. You add a Kha'Zix into the mix of things as well, and you say that 1-2 link up between mid and jungle. I mean, who's going to go do battle with us right now? Yes, Volibear and Orianna is the matchup, but you know, I would say they need level 6 a lot more than their opposition to try and really match their power.
Yeah, for sure, but the one thing I kind of don't like is I don't really like compositions that are tankless. And so it's probably up to Clint here to carry that one over the line, in the sense that like he needs to play something a little bit beefier, because the composition of UQU, right, what they want to do when you see those champions is they want to set up in a lane, set traps up, and just fling abilities at them and hit turrets. You know, and Kha'Zix can either hang off on a side looking for a flank, looking for a pick, or he can evolve W at level 11 and also just assist and aid in the poke, in the siege, and you know, and then it's going to be up to Die-Cubs to really just pull the trigger, have the heart engage, and just stop them from being able to set up a successful siege. And so, you know, one thing that UQU needs, at least so far in this draft, is a little bit of safety, a little bit of disengage, or just a little bit of CC, so that if things do go kind of sour, they are able to, you know, kite that one out, run away, reset, and set up again. But at the moment, with the champions that they have, it is very volatile.
It certainly is, with that Sion coming on through now as well, a champion that Clint showcased that he's not too afraid to play. Xeranis, not too afraid to play. Played it twice coming into this one as well. Going to be a interesting matchup here, given the fact that UQU, they've had their Urgot denied away in this drafting phase, so Malphite's going to come on through as well, a champion that Clint is very comfortable on. We talk about him being very R-orientated, wants to press that ultimate, wants to get into the thick of things. We see the likes of Malphite, Urgot, Vladimir, to say the least here. Obviously no surprises with the support bands of the Lux and Morgana, and China's just providing so much in this kind of long-range matchup with CC, with shields, and a mitigation that can come on through clutch. Now, Taric is going to be locked in here. They want to make sure that once they jump in, they are killing you within a 2.5 second window, but the response straight away is, well, if you're going to try and hit us with poke, we're going to hit you with the Karma as well.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting, right? Because the composition from UQU, if you take everything into account, let's take Malphite out of the equation, and let's look at Caitlyn, Taric, let's look at the Zoe, let's look at the Kha'Zix.
Sure.
They don't really want to have that traditional front to back, right? They don't ever want to have a 5v5 where Sion, Volibear are set up in front of Jhin and Orianna, and there's no backline access, because I can tell you they're not going to win that. Zoe, traditionally, unless a head doesn't melt tanks, doesn't get through tanks, Kha'Zix is going to have a rough time getting through tanks as well. So, you know, picking the Malphite there doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because what you're saying is you know, Kha'Zix and Malphite both want to find kind of backline access, fair? And so now we have like abundance of champions that want backline access, but we have nothing really to set up or put bodies in front of the carries that want to do damage. Whereas when you look at Diacub's composition, for me, it just makes a lot of sense, right? It's just like, let's get 5 people on the map. Let's get 5 people in an area. Let's just start 5v5ing over dragons, over Baron, potentially over whatever neutral objective they can find. And it just makes a lot more sense in that sense. But not to discredit, the teamfight ability that UQU's composition has. I just think it's a lot harder and their windows are a lot smaller.
So would you say then, with what UQ have, they've got obviously a lot of comfort there, they've got a lot of pick potential. It's a composition that if they are struggling then to hit that back line because maybe the front line is too strong, locking in as many people as possible, they need to get to a point where they've snowballed so far by, hey, I'm thinking the 15-minute mark, that, the ability to target pretty much anybody is a relevant option.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what it is. It's just all about snowballing. When you pick things like the Kha'Zix, like the Zoe and things like that, it is really about snowballing because Orianna's just going to be fine getting the tier, stacking it up, getting the Seraphs. Volibear's going to be fine getting, Cinder Hulk Tabis if that's the route he wants to opt in for. Whereas, Kha'Zix wants to be ahead of the clock, accelerated items, Zoe much of the same. And potentially we just see a lot of the fights breaking up around bot lane. We saw how potent, we've seen teams do this with the Kha'Zix, with the Taric. Kha'Zix gets level 6, stealths into a lane, is binded to Taric, and they just land a stun from low vision. So, the opportunity for UQU to get the leads and to actually punish is there, but they're again putting themselves in a window or with a composition that not necessarily puts them on a timer, but I'm going to say puts them on a bit of a timer, actually. That's what I'll say. Because yes, Caitlyn scales, yes, Taric scales, but in terms of a 5v5, I think Diacub's far outscale.
And it's interesting because we don't commonly see the likes of a Caitlyn Taric matchup in that bot lane there. They kind of go a little bit against each other as to what they're looking to achieve. Caitlyn obviously wants to poke from afar, have a bit of fun, assert some dominance. We commonly see the likes of, Morganas, Luxes, Karmas, Sennas, anything that can aid a little bit of either extra protection, damage, or poke from afar, just to be really, really annoying. But obviously, as you're mentioning, the Taric is going to be much more there to act as a facilitator going into those later fights. We can say, I can pair with the Kha'Zix, I can pair with the Zoe, and make sure that, once we jump in, we do find success. I think, as you say, for the Diacubs, much like we talk about, an assassin into a tank matchup, if nothing really happens for this Kha'Zix, if Volibear is able to hit level 6 and they hit that level 6 power spike as a whole, we're looking at these contests on dragons, on heralds, and thinking, okay, this is a flip which you have to see them get a big win on.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I'll just take your job from you, Skimmy, and just say that we'll have a small delay entering the game. There's just been UQU selected incorrect summoner spells, so...
Well, I did see that, Jubes. As we're getting ourselves loaded in, I saw Unshackled the Mad Lad himself.
What did he have?
In the jungle, he had Flash and Ignite. Now, I don't know about you. We've seen Ignite Smite. We've seen Ignite Flash. But it doesn't work in the jungle without a Smite. I mean, you can talk about a leash. You need more than a leash.
I know how that happened. So before every kind of game, you get like some warm-up time on Tournament Realm. So you get some warm-up time. You get to play against whoever you want. You can go in practice tool. And so a lot of the time, players opt in for like 1v1ing each other. You generally 1v1 one of your teammates. And for sure, Unshackled has just decided to 1v1 his teammate. Opted in for Flash Ignite. Probably lost the 1v1 as well because he is a jungler. And now he's just got to hang his head in double the shame.
So he's got to grief his teammates and like delay the series as well. Yeah. Gotcha. Well, the word is from the producer here. We won't be too far away from jumping into the first game here of the Grand Finals. It's a best of 5, so there's plenty of opportunities for these teams to showcase their strength, their ability to reassert themselves, to figure out new strategies, and to make small adjustments on the fly. But the picks that you see below us right now, they're all locked in. The same is going to take place here. We're just waiting for Unshackled, the Kha'Zix, to switch to the Smite and make sure that things are a little bit more standard, to say the least there, Jubes. I mean, have you ever played a game without a Smite? I mean, what are you looking like there? Is it just super grief?
I actually did it the other day, and then my duo dodged for me. But in the past, I've never done it in a competitive game. But in solo queue, I've done it, and it's miserable because the Smite and the jungle item actually gives you EXP as well. So even if you manage to clear your red buff, you don't hit level 2. And so like your level 1 off red buff or blue buff, whatever you start, like you're just like diminishing returns pretty much. Like, you're just permanently down gold, permanently down EXP, and the enemy jungler's just like 3 or 4 levels ahead of you. You got to base every 2 or 3 seconds at 2 or 3 camps, and like it's just miserable. And honestly, the remake is just far better. At any point, would you rather just remake?
So I want to return back to the point you mentioned from before. So obviously UQU, they've got Pick, they've got Poke, they've got the ability to assassinate targets. What are some shortcomings, apart from the fact that they have to have this very heavy emphasis on targeting backline? Is there ability for DC or the Die Cubs to play it kind of patiently, kind of chill and say, we need to really let UQU make the pressure first, kind of put the responsibility on them, because if they don't do anything, we can just casually scale into this game. We can get one tanky item and say, well, if you can't kill our backline, well, our front line's locking up half your members, and it just means that you're unable to assassinate anybody.
I think another problem the UQU composition actually has is that a lot of the time you pick Caitlyn is that you don't pick Caitlyn to go neutral in lane, right? Caitlyn as a champion has a kit in which you can actually like abuse lane, get some turret plates. Yeah, you have to play lane to win. Otherwise, if you're just playing lane to go like dead even, it may not necessarily be the best champion. You know, Kate's still fine. Like obviously there's going to be games where like you're not ahead and you make mistakes, and there's still opportunities for you to come back into the game. But traditionally, you want to pair Caitlyn with a lane that you can win. And Taric isn't a champion that wins lanes. Yes, you can get ganks and you can set up ganks and then potentially be like, haha, Caster didn't know what he was talking about. Like that's obviously, that can happen. But for the most part, in 2v2, in isolation, Jin Karma shouldn't really lose lane to Kate Taric. Unless there's like a flash stun that lands into traps and everything just goes perfect for UQU. And so, like, yeah, they run into this problem where, like, in terms of 2v2, they shouldn't be able to push their lead. Kha'Zix can come there and help snowball that lane and get a lead. But, again, it's like I said, UQU like to do this to themselves, where they just put themselves on timers, or they make the game a little bit hard for themselves, and they say, oh, we have to get stuff done. But they kind of take it as, like, a little kick in the backside, and they actually do get stuff done. You know, there's been games where they just pick scaling lanes, do absolutely nothing, and lose. But for some reason, when they put on these... when they're put on these champions and they're put on these picks where they need to get stuff rolling, they actually do accelerate.
I think it's going to be an exciting prospect, given that we've seen that they are one of the more experienced teams, one of the more keen teams, I suppose, is a better way to frame it, as to making things happen from the level 1 mark. A lot of the times we've seen those teams just fan on out, passively wait, see what they can find, and just get to lane and make sure that there's no sort of flip that can occur. No, this is a team that we've seen multiple times now. Look to try and snowball a lead, look to sort of thrive under the pressure of saying we want to know that by the 15-minute mark we need to have put daylight between ourselves and the opposition. Quick reminder for you guys at home, small delay. The jungler on UQU had the wrong summoner locked in. He had Ignite, no Smite, and I'm sure Juve's going to attest to that not being any fun there, especially if you go for best of 5. You just can't play the game. So the word from the producer is the game's been remade. That is loading in now, and just whilst we wait for competitive integrity to catch on up, probably just under a couple of minutes now before we jump into that first game to kick off this best of 5. So apologies for the delay, but we will be underway in just a moment there, Juves. And I want to take it back to the fact that what does it feel like, I suppose? I mean, a little bit different coming from a jungle role yourself, but what does it feel like when you've had a champion denied away so many different times? Is there almost a false sense of security to know that, hey, it's been let through, and do you put more pressure on yourself knowing that, hey, I've got this opportunity?
I mean, there's definitely times where we've had times where I played OBL where I think there was a time where I won a lot of Gragas games in a row, and then every team was banning Gragas, and then there was a team who let Gragas through, and then to the point of where like you're just not expecting to get the champion, that when you get it, you're actually not that polished. And so I wonder if Amateur is actually polished on Zoe, because every team has just perma-banned Zoe against him. And so he's probably heading into this series like, okay, they're just banning Zoe as well, whatever. And so, yeah, it still may be his like best champion, but potentially like he has to warm up to it or warm into the game, because that has happened. And I don't remember the last time he's played Zoe in a competitive game, right? And so like things change, matchups change, jungle matchups change, how you link up with your jungler, and all the whole dynamic does change. So potentially it could be a little bit of a shock to Amateur's system, but you know, I am sure we'll find out early on. You know, sometimes a real telling trade. Sometimes a real telling sign if a person is comfortable on their champion is actually how they start lane off. You know, are they missing creeps? Is he getting the Zoe passive drops? Because, you know, if you don't last hit the minion, you don't get the W passive, so you're not going to be able to pick up an Ignite, a Protobelt, whatever it is. So these little things actually let you see how settled into a game a player is, because, you know, everyone's had that nightmare where they miss like the first 3 creeps, they miss all the cannons, and, you know, it's actually interesting to watch. You see it in every region, and people make notes of it, like, oh, he's missing a lot of CS, and then you start seeing them miss more CS because they start to get in their own head. So hopefully we see Amateur have a good start.
Yeah, he's only played one Zoe game across all 13 weeks of competition between the regular splits and the playoffs themselves. He's actually never played a champion the same from the following week. Every single week has been a different champion to showcase what he can do, whereas for Wei, there was a point in time where the 4 weeks in a row he was just playing Orianna on repeat. So he'll be feeling warmed up and ready for the occasion. We saw what he could achieve last week on the Azir and Cassiopeia in particular, so I'm putting a lot of emphasis on him to show up and obviously sort of welcome this challenge of saying, well, you're known for the Zoe, what can you do when you go into me today? We're just under a minute away from jumping into the very first game, and then we can actually discuss what we're seeing, as opposed to theory crafting parts of the map, parts of the team that you at home should be keeping your eye on. I suppose as Jubes has already wrapped up and sort of showcased here, for UQU, they've got a composition that looks to find a bit of poke, looks to try and find that one-shot potential, but needs to snowball, otherwise Dire Cubs can just ease themselves into this one.
Yeah, for sure, and Dire Cubs aren't a team you want to let easy into any game. I don't think they've actually lost a game that's gone past like 30, 40 minutes. You know, I mean, they haven't lost a game in general, right? They did lose to QUT, but they still ended up winning the series. And they're just a team who, you know, once 2, 3 items roll around, you don't want to let them get there. Because once they do, Calrock just does too much damage. Wei does too much damage. Cupcake just knows his role in every single game. And yeah, I think sometimes you have the best opportunity to beat teams that, you know, you may perceive to be a little bit better than you, you know, earlier on into the game. Because when it's still laning phase, you can apply pressure and there's more, you know, micro outplay as the Mammoth icon gets flared there by Clint. Maybe a bit of a Mammoth fan.
Maybe. But what we do know for sure is that they're a fan of one another as they come into this one. It's the first game of a best-of-5. It's the grand final for this year's OCS playoffs. UQU and Dire Cubs, first and second during the regular split. And much like their standings, they have made it here to the final hurdle. A best-of-5 to decide which team will hit that finishing line first and which team will be able to celebrate and claim all the glory.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of kind of the underdog story, so I'm... Yeah, I want to see a 5-game series. I'd be happy if UQU got to win 2 of the games and Dire Cubs won, or vice versa. I think if there's 5 games, then everyone's a winner.
Let's see what we can get.
Unless you get reverse swept, then you lose. Well, then you just mega lose.
That's a mental tilt that gets exasperated tenfold, as we've seen it happen before. But those are the long series, and that's when you start to really talk about, okay, if you've got experience on your side, you've been here before, you know what to expect. But a lot of these players, as we've already mentioned, they're fresh talents here in the Oceanic Academy, getting to show what they can do. And coming into a situation like this, when you're used to a best-of-1, when you're used to scrims, you realize now you've got a lot of pressure and you've got to keep performing at that level for such a sustained period of time. We saw a bit of an engage take place at level 1, bit of harass, but nothing more than just that, as both junglers will start topside.
Yeah, both junglers do start topside, which means they're going to end up on the same side of the map, and this we potentially see why not just grab his blue, grab his Gromp, path back up the top lane, but that means, you know, with his bot lane pushing, they are exposed, and they are, you know, exposed for that Kha'Zix gank, potentially flash Taric stun as well.
Can see how this interaction happens in the bot lane, whether or not Kha'Zix will be looking to try and target bot lane as a result, or if he will put his attention towards mid and ensure that Amateur can get ahead nice and early. We want to see Unshackled be proactive in this jungle matchup. Find himself the lead, obviously having gone electrocute, wants to be impactful. Wants to make sure that Why Not isn't able to cruise on through to the ultimate mark.
Oh, you hate to see it. I hate seeing CS die like that. But you know, Clint's picked up the press the attack, so what that actually does is give him a lot more damage when he accesses a backline. So, you know, Malphite does have an auto attack reset as well, so being able to proc that press the attack quite easily. But this lane is going quite well for Zoranix. You know, we saw level 1, Clint was able to win that one just because of press the attack proc, but Zoranix is laning extremely well right now, and Clint's going to have to go home.
Yeah, Clint just can't play the game right now. He's opted for the Doran Shield to start here. Zoranix, with the Corrupting Potion, is burning through it and just winning those trades outright. He's running the Grasp as well, so just a ton of sustain. Not to mention his passive kicking in to buff up that health pool just a little bit more. And as you quite early mentioned, that's going to be the forced recall, and we might get to see him TP back to this wave.
This bot lane's already losing plates, right? And so you're picking a Caitlyn lane right now to not only go down to half health, but go down a turret plate. And yes, it's because of the Karma, right? It's not just because of the Jhin, but this is why it's interesting that they actually paired it with the Taric. So they must have something planned. You know, maybe they're just hoping that they can survive lane, get to the level 6 mark where they, you know, potentially like ultimate Malphite into the backline, has the survivability, has the Taric ultimate go down, puts the Sunnies on, and is A-okay.
Now, Juves, I'm not sure if you caught it, but I see Kha'Zix without a red buff. I see a ward there from the Diacarbs. It looks to me as a bit of counter jungling he's gone on here.
Yeah, it has, and Cheeky from Why Not being able to pick up that red buff. And you know, sometimes this is what happens when you get punished for doing full clear on junglers. You do lose that buff. And the one thing I will say is that there's like a little bit of a misconception that if you lose a red buff, if you lose a blue buff, you're behind. But the thing that you have to consider and the thing you have to remember is that tempo of jungle camps is just as important as securing a major buff, right? And so what that means is like Kha'Zix wasted no time. He was just on a permanent full clear, went base early, and put all of his jungle camps on cooldown. So that means that his camps are spawning far earlier than that of Why Not, because Why Not had to cross river, take the red, get back out, go to his jungle camps, and proceed that way. But now this is the second spawning of Unshackled Krugs. He's picked up the second spawning of his raids. Potentially he hits level 5 here as now, and then you don't even notice really that the red buff got taken.
And it's interesting because also at the same time, both were able to achieve a scuttle in the river as well. So there's no major impact, not only from stealing away a buff, but from vision denial as well.
And so see that? Unshackled's down a camp, right, as evident by the CS, but he's actually ticked level 5 the exact same time as Why Not. And that is just because he put his camps on cooldown at a quicker tempo. And so ultimately that red buff still amounts to nothing.
Well, we're starting to see that interaction between both the Caitlyn and the Taric, the anti-synergy, if you will, because they're both looking to try and achieve very different things. It is being punished by both Calrock and Cupcake, as they're able to keep perma-push in that wave and ensure that Why Not can rotate on through and find themselves at the very first dragon.
At least we're not going to see a Cloud Soul.
Thankfully. But hey, it's early in the night. Another 4 opportunities to see what dice we can roll, what number we achieve, and what dragon will decide to show himself.
Mid lane's dead even as well. Might see some fireworks soon when junglers do hit level 6. Potentially see, you know, both of them trying to influence the map, influence the game. But at the moment, I think both junglers are just happy putting their farming boots on and just power farming until level 6. And I think top lane's going to be a bit of an island, so it's not going to be a hard read for Why Not or Unshackled to kind of counter each other, because you have one of two options, right? 50% chance. You go mid, you go bot. If you go top, I think it doesn't really influence these matchups too much.
What we are noticing, though, is that despite there not being any kills and despite everybody focusing on their farm, there is a big difference already being achieved here by the Diacarbs, up by 600 gold just from superior wave manipulation. The ability to not only find harassment, but to keep the members of UQU locked underneath their turret and them to sacrifice a lot of this. You can already see some sizable leads, not only in this top lane, but between 80 carries as well. As a bit of an exchange takes place in the bot lane here. Farmer dropped very, very low. Yeah.
And
Revenge comes a bit of a beating too. Here comes Orianna, as you say. Why Not's on the way? He'll have a Stormbringer. Now, will they look for the full combo? There's the heal summon very early on. Exhaust comes in out. Cupcake flashes for it. He flashes out of that shockwave. Doesn't fall on down just yet, but Carrick secures himself first blood. And Wei will take 2 turret shots for his effort. Diacarbs want more. They'll find more, and there's the full shot, and boom, he falls on down. Jin is huge, 2 kills.
Hugs.
Can Unshackled look to even that score sheet. He's level 6. He's going for the invisibility. He can't do much, and he's forced to flash away, but now, one by one, they come falling on through to this wave. They're playing with cooldowns, they're playing with fire, and Amatul does not secure the Paddle Star. And Diacarbs have been afforded a second lifeline.
That's an absolute bummer. That had the potential to be like a double kill at an absolute minimum there, but now not only do they die both, you know, 2-man death in the bot side of the map, but Why Not is able to pick up the Richter and really add insult to injury, because what we'll probably see him do is just walk bot side on Dragon spawn and place it bot side, get the first turret, and if his Jin wasn't accelerated, he's going to be when that turret goes down.
Certainly is. So Jin that gets fed this early on, you get a little bit concerned. We've seen a bit of a variation really on these Jin builds too. We've seen in recent times the Manamune start to be picked up. You're sort of sacrificing the ability to be aggressive in the early game, but just buying yourself a ton of strength in that late game here. But based on that success, well, why would you want to wait till late game? Why? Well, you can just continue to be strong and aggressive to start things off with here. He's looking to go for that Infinity Edge. This time, Amatul secures the skill shot, and this time, He forces Orianna down to 50%.
Yeah, a little bit of mid lane control now after that, and we're starting to see the potency of Zoe being able to just permanently wave clear or almost one-shot those waves. He's used the heal. There's a redemption in mid lane. I don't know if he's seen it. Is he going to walk up and try and get it? But this bot lane's looking quite rough. They're down a pickaxe. So trading is going to be a little hard for them. They pinged the Kazakhs out, so they definitely see him get there. And he's just gone to base and decided not to worry about it.
Worrying times, really. As a focal point of the draft that you wanted everybody to be aware of is that for UQU, they needed to get themselves ahead. They needed to try and snowball, find those important kills. And a trade that favours the Die Cubs. They'll be no doubt ecstatic with how this game started off in the first 10 minutes.
I mean, the game, there's still a very obvious win condition for them, or a window of opportunity, I should say, because double summoners are down on the Die Cub bot lane. I mean, there's just there's summoners down everywhere when you really look at it, but you know, they're the two most immobile champions on Summoner's Rift, so if Kha'Zix can swing himself down there, maybe with the Zoe priority, or at the very least the Zoe redemption, because I believe Zoe does have one right now in the mid lane, unless he's used it for priority, then potentially we do see them be able to pick up 2 kills and, you know, we start talking about a different game. But as it stands, you know, Die Cub's in firm control. They're up about 1k, 900 gold in 80 carry position. You know, they're up over 1k if you want to compare them as a duo, right? And so, you know, that's a pickaxe and some. Mid lane's dead even. Jungle, there's a slight lead for the Volibear, so it's not out of reach for sure, but we need to see that UQU makes some plays.
And as you already highlight, it will be Revenge, the Taric that still has the Flash and Ignites, the ability to flash stun, secure a kill, and ensure that if they want to go for a tower dive of their own, they're invulnerable to the damage that could come their way. We'll get to see how Revenge plays this lane so far, because right now they are definitely going to be lacking when it comes to the harass and the damage to match on a 2v2 scale. Kha'Zix is being furiously pinged out here. A little bit indecisive as to where he wants to go. Do I go down to the bot lane? Do I turn my attention towards mid? Mid jungle now, looking to ramp up with some power. He goes invisible, jumps on through, hits an attack, and adds a bit of bonus damage to that one.
Now that is some pretty good damage that came down from the Kha'Zix there. You know, that was a 1v2 situation, utilizing the Kha'Zix ultimate very well there. You know, putting down a decent amount of damage, but we see Scion. We actually see Die Cubs do this a lot. They kind of use their top laner to sack for priority and not necessarily play for lane, but comes down to secure the neutral objective and then burns the teleport to get the top lane. And so what he ultimately did was, it's basically like he teleported for the fight, right? He TP'd the dragon pretty much, picked it up, teleported top, so there is really the kind of no loss there for the Die Cubs to do that. You know, their assumption was that it was going to be a contest from UQU, especially with the damage Unshackled was able to do. But now what Clint has, Clint does have teleport advantage, so we do see Die Cubs looking for a turret dive here. Clint needs to be ready to teleport and fast.
He needs to be right now, because Stormbreaker can come out, that can disable the turret. That's the TP as you highlight. Instantly the Herald gets summoned, but that'll prevent any follow-up here. Question is, will Shelly get the headbutt off? I don't think she will.
It's actually a terrible Herald.
So, Herald achieves nothing. Teleport prevents anything. Nothing occurs in his bot lane.
And I mean, you know, Clint still loses a lot of that. Like, that's not to say, okay, it's not a worst case scenario, Herald, by any means. They're still able to deny a lot of minions top, burn the teleport from Clint. Kha'Zix was still able to pick up the farm, so again, I would say it's somewhat of an even trade. Obviously, your Malphite's the one that gets punished there, but your Kha'Zix is the beneficiary. Sure,
and Kha'Zix is going to be quite happy that the resources can go his way to become as strong as possible, because you're looking at those leads become further and further out of his control. At least 30 CS separating both the Kha'Zix and the Volibear at this stage. Getting a little bit scary, is it? But as you said, the Die Cubs ensuring that we want to play for the soul, and a soul which would benefit them so much at this stage. You're looking at a mountain soul to play for, and given that they already have this composition that is going to be very beefy, just makes it even harder now for the likes of a Zoe and a Kha'Zix to pop off.
Yeah. And this is where we'll start to see, I think, a little bit of a mid lane influence when blue buff gets handed over. Because now they kind of had unlimited resources, unlimited mana to push the wave and make stuff happen. Now, unfortunately, Amateur's been dished off the blue buff on his reset, so he's going to lose a little bit of value in that. But, you know, potentially it has the Ludens, or at least, Ludens picked up there. So now this is kind of where we see the power spike, and where we do see the Twitch chat copy and paste there about how Zoe's so good, and the sleep, you know, what's that copy and paste? It's like Zoe's so good. Zoe's my favorite champion. You know, the sleepy trouble.
I've never seen this one.
Oh,
No.
dude, it's so funny.
Look,
I
the
see
only
it all
one
the
I'm aware
time.
of is the 200 years of Philios, so maybe I'm a boomer to these
Let me
Twitch
find
memes. You find that, and I'll discuss what we're seeing on the screen right here. As we get ourselves ready for what could be a scary situation. We talk about mid matchup being one that could be a benefit of the spice, but I'm looking at that Jhin and getting a little bit scared now. Storm Razor has been achieved, however, by Farmus. It's going to be a little bit more matched as a result.
Zoe, Sebi's put it in chat. I hope Zoe
What
wins.
is it, mate?
I'm a Zoe main. Hold that. Cleanse is burnt. Too early. Oh, that wasn't a cleanse burnt. That was the Zoe cleanse. There we go.
Well, there you go. As you read out the copy past him, so he doesn't even need to be present for that attack to take place, as that'll be the first death here for Wei.
I mean,
Not only his flash and his teleport, so he's down a lot as a result of that one.
does feel like a little bit of an ego draft, right? We've given Amatul the best champion, the champion that's just been perma-banned from him all year, and now he's kind of running away with the matchup, right? Has a 20 CS lead, has an assist to his name now, has burnt the summoners of Wei, and it just feels like an unnecessary gamble that now UKU have an avenue or an option to play through.
It was what I was curious about coming into this one, because you already mentioned it, and we've already witnessed it with it being banned away predominantly 13 weeks of competition. He's only had it once. There's a reason why teams will not allow him to have this champion and force him onto others.
But you got to kind of feel for Amatul, right? At the moment, he's pressing tab and he's taking stock of the game and where he needs to be, what he needs to do, and he sees that there's a 30 CS lead in the bot lane plus 2 kills, so an infinity edge disparity between the two. Yeah, he looks top lane, he sees that there's about a 20 CS lead there as well, and you know, whilst that one doesn't matter too much, hold that thought. Might be a one
He's
shot.
looking for more. Comes the redemption. There's the trouble, and there's the... Well, that's just the disengage away. The ultimate had to be used. Hangs onto his flash. Does why not? But now Farmer in a spot above her as well. Exhausted, disengaged, and flashes as well. Survives on 50 HP. Just in time for Tarek to back him up.
Yeah, so I mean, turret's going to drop here for the Jhin, but he takes the tempo reset over getting that turret. So really well played there from the Dicop's bot lane, just pushing their advantage ever so slightly. Why not? Didn't have to burn flash there, but you know, having the Volibear ultimate is kind of crucial if you're skirmishing. The champion actually, you know, does become quite squishy early on if you don't have the ultimate, right? You do get the health advantage, able to juke some CC, so it is a very long cooldown as well. UKU mid jungle are playing pretty well at the moment.
Certainly are, and that's the area of the map that we wanted to see pop off so far. We've seen what they can do when they link up in their own form. And to come into this one here and have a composition that needed certain win conditions to show up, they have found them. But this is a different situation now. Without that Volibear ultimate, will they still be strong enough? Will they still be wanting a fight to take place here? Will be the moment for the Union to show up and contest this third dragon and prevent a very easy soul point.
They do have Malphite ultimate, and Orianna has no flash, but they decided to give that one away. And the problem is, when you play these kind of double tank compositions, or at least one tank compositions, when you give away a Mountain Soul, it actually is pretty broken. You know, Mountain Soul is not necessarily known as the dragon or the Dragon Soul that wins or loses you a series, but I can assure you, when you draft towards having that tank, and they have, you know, those 3 or 4 tank items, it is almost impossible to get through. And they definitely, UKU would want those statistics on their Malphite, on their Taric, but now Zoranus is the one with those stats.
Certainly is. And going to put so much emphasis no later into this game on the likes of both magic and armor penetration to ensure that if they find a target, they'll fall on down nice and quickly. Scary situation now. They put themselves onto the clock. You said it was going to be a game where they like to put themselves under the gun and put themselves in a pressure tank. Well, 22 minutes, it's going to be a situation where they have to fight.
Yeah, and I mean, this game honestly just stems down to their draft, right? Obviously, you know, the Dicop still had to punish a poor draft, but, you know, the bot lane has just really hurt them. You know, this Sion Malphite matchup, it is what it is, hasn't really influenced the map. But the fact that they just lost this bot lane matchup with Kate Taric so hard, and were able to be pushed under turret and dove, really gave Dicubs access to all the dragons, and now put them on a timer of a Mountain Soul at, you know, what's going to be 21 minutes, 22 minutes. So not the position UKU want to be in, but in saying that, you know, it's not a blowout by any means. They're still within touching distance, or they can still see that gold lead. You know, it's only 1,000 to 2,000, and if you play a team fight poorly, or if you play a team fight well, you're going to be able to, you know, bridge that gap and still win that team fight.
They certainly are, as bridging that will be pretty vital at this stage, because 30 seems to be the magical number when it comes to
there we go.
When it comes to the CS between all these carries, here comes Amatul, secures himself another kill. Redemption after redemption, he finds redemption. He gets himself his first kill. And he showcases that we're up in CS. I'm the only one up in CS. But now I'll be up in kills too.
My god, he's good at Zoe, isn't he? That was like a Q, just a random Q off screen, into the sleep, into the Q flash. Picks up a redemption as well, standing in the face of Calrock and just saying, well, you want to fight? Let's fight. And that's definitely a big kill in the context of the game, because what it does is it relieves pressure. So Scions had to come mid to defend turret. Now that gives Malphite a little bit of time to push that wave out. So all in all, they just get time to shove their waves out, get some good resets off, and potentially pick up some vision that they weren't allowed otherwise.
And look what it's allowed Amatul to now pick up between the Oblivion Orb and the Sork Shoes, doing a lot of damage coupled with this Dark Seal. Expecting more skirmishes and expecting more damage to ramp on up. And it's a big lifeline that UQU now are banking on the ability to try and one-shot somebody off their screen and say, well, if you've got range of this Jhin, and if our Caitlyn isn't as strong to match, well, Zoe can even out the scoreline.
Yeah, Zoe can, but, you know, that's just like, you're just wishing at this point, right? You know, next fight that comes around, that you have to pray that Amatul is able to find all of the skill shots onto Calrock with two tanks standing in front of him. But we're going to see this Herald that breaks mid-turret, so this is very good in the context of the game. That means that they'll probably have, you know, priority and access to set up for this Dragon a lot earlier.
Yeah. But the plate's gone as well. Very easy for it to fall on down. They've still got their tier 1 and mid sitting very strong at this stage. So a huge acquisition for Fighting Pro, for getting vision and finding avenues to target this soul point decider in just under 90 seconds.
Yeah, the thing that kind of concerns me though, right, is that the Caitlyn is just sitting on a Storm Razor. You know, you look at Jin's item, it's the Infinity Edge and the Zeal, and you know, when you're playing from behind and Storm Razor's your first item, nah, he's fine.
Here he comes, he's looking for it. Cosmic Radiance gets baited out, his revenge looks for it. He gets put to sleep, he gets stunned, he's in a lot of trouble right now. Forced to flash away, out comes Redemption. There's the shockwave onto free. Unshackled, forced to disengage away. Zorenis, can he look to try and find that kill from the afterlife? He's running, he's gunning, he's got the lifesteal, but he doesn't have the damage to take down somebody with him. Curtain's Call is not enough. And now you can see that UQU are just playing with cooldowns, playing with fire, playing with damage from afar. Here he comes, the unstoppable force. 1 and 2 make it 3. Cubs feeling far too good with the situation, saying, look, it's only Zoe that's fit, the rest of us were popping off. They find a mid-turret, and they find kills to boot.
And this is exactly what we're saying in Champ Select, right? You know, if Cubs have the ability to set up a front to back and are able to just put their tanks in front of their carries, then there's no way UQU can win a team fight. But what we saw there was a chaotic skirmish, and we did say, if it's chaotic, if they're able to find backline access, then UQU for sure can win fights. And they did this at a gold deficit. So, yes, Jhin did go back, pick up his second item, but Amatul is just so far ahead of the clock now. He's up EXP, he's up gold, and, you know, you have to say he's going to be up Summoner Spell soon when that flash comes up off cooldown. Definitely a very scary game now for the Cubs.
Hasn't this changed the situation a fair bit? Unshackled is up 2 levels going into that one as well in the jungle. And that's all up by a level, but a ton of gold going his way right now. And as a result of that, he knows, look, I have all this magic penetration. I can shred through these people like butter before they really find those major tanky items. I can't afford to fall on down, though. Neither can my AD carry. Flashing, dashing, disengaging away. Receives a heal, receives a redemption, but too little too late. And Calrock showcases why he won the laning matchup, and he'll win the skirmishes.
Oh, that was a whisker away from hitting. Hang on.
Oh no, Unshackled once more. This is the matchup. This is the 1v2 that you were looking to see right here between that and the Tarek. It makes it so damn difficult to try and take this Karzik down. And just like that with conviction, he finds a double. The Cubs are slowly being picked apart right now. And yes, they got a front line, but they're just not able to find avenues of success.
This is actually just a turbo 1v9, or 2v9 rather, from Unshackled and Amatul right now. You know, I don't know what Unshackled did, but midway through the OCS split, the guy just turned into an absolute demon of a jungler. Just absolutely overtaking. Whoever he was versing, it really didn't matter. All he was doing was focusing on the way that he wanted to play the game. And you have to say, the playstyle that he's opted in for has just been a tempo-based, I'll full clear, I'll get the EXP lead, I'll get the advantage that way. And once it's come to team fights, or once it's come to kind of executing in that scenario, he's been able to do it time and time again. And right now, Unshackled and Amatul are just tearing this Cubs roster apart.
They were the points of praise, most notably from the semi-finals. You saw it, you witnessed it. And you thought, could they do it for another week in a row? And if you look at that scoreline, they most certainly can. They put themselves under pressure. They had a composition that needed a 5 moments of success. And I mean, just from the fact that Clint rocks up there with a major ultimate to lock and place free. And from that point onwards, they showcase that they have got the damage. 11 stacks now on the Magi's. Amateur feeling so confident with his ability, and for good reason too. They're just finding picks off the screen. And showcasing that you might have a front line, but you're not able to play the game.
So Sybil, who was a starter for UQU for the first few weeks, obviously still a sub on their roster and in their books, has actually said that the strategy or the way that Unshackled actually kind of improved mid-split and has found his form was by actually not playing solo queue. So take that for what you will. He actually
it is hit an OP.
Yeah,
your mental becomes a lot more clear as a result.
Maybe he kind of just saved his mentality and came into these games with less of a tilted mind.
It's always a difficult situation when you've played pro and had scrims and all the likes of it to then go into solo queue. Adjusting and adapting and not losing your mental as a result. But the UQ Union have put themselves in a very comfortable spot down in gold were they for the majority of this game, but at the 25-minute mark they're the first team now to take the lead and flip things around.
The problem that Diacubs are going to have right now is face-checking these neutral objectives. So if UQU don't make any mistakes, don't get caught on rotation or don't get caught setting up, then, you know, this Zoe is just going to have a field day and they'll need to have Scion group. They'll need... Because at the moment, right, Skimmy, I talked about, you know, they have 2 tanks. You know, they have the Volibear and the Scion. But at this point in the game, when your Volibear is level 11, he's not a tank. You know, if a Zoe lands asleep at level 16, Clint might be caught here. Baron is started though,
Certainly
keep your eye on that.
Now this is interesting, he's just buying time right now. Karok's actually locked into place. He's going to look to try and zone away for as long as possible. Way will reset, then can teleport into this Baron if they need be. Baron getting lower, down to half so far. Why not? Does not have a flash, but here's a Blast Golem. He has an ultimate as well. There's the Curtain's Call, here's the Cosmic Radiance, there's the Redemption. Damage, shielding, denial and everything. Zorenes looking to lock and place the key target. Takes out Caitlyn straight away. Farmer low and low. The Dragon, the Baron, can they steal it away? They can! Forget the smite. Karok does it all. Snipes you, takes your buff, and takes the win too. In this game, flip to flip, no matter what, Diacubs have reasserted themselves back in the driving seat.
Yeah, so that was just a very good play from Diacubs, punishing Clint, you know, the split pusher, or not even the split pusher, but just catching a side lane. And that ultimately set up that play, right? UQU felt pressured to make a play on the other side of the map. That was the Baron, and you have to think that it probably wasn't necessary, and it was just a well-executed team fight. Jin was able to free hit, do damage, and ultimately he secured the Baron. And one thing I can say, Skimmy, is both these junglers have not watched any Rift Rivals VODs, that's for sure.
Well, hang on a minute, because this guy might need to watch a VOD if he falls on down in a second. Doesn't have any magic resistance. I suppose he's got the null magic mantle, not that much, but still enough to prevent Amateur from hitting those meaty numbers that we've seen him do so far. But it's a big moment here for Wei. He was down a fair bit before trying to match that Zoe. Gonna catch him up in XP, get him some gold as well, and the Rabadon's cap, a huge power spike for him to look forward to. But here's a moment that could spell disaster, that could end the game. Just like that, Tarek is gone. He had no ultimate. And now to be going to this one 4v5. This is a soul point aside. Oceanic looking for the one shot. The edge not getting proc very early on. Exhaust is used. He's thrown on out, but look at Clint. He hasn't got the ultimate. It's up in 10 seconds. He's forced to flash away. When does he re-engage? He sees them all low. That's a one-man shockwave. Farmer's just out of the fight straight away. He needs to soak up as many of these shots as possible.
Sleep.
Max range distance on the Sleepy Trouble Bubble.
Amit was having a... Ooh,
they're all so low, they're all so low. It's a playground. Who's going to execute upon it? No! Killed mid-animation. Out comes the teleport. They don't need it. Jin gets a triple. He says, forget about a Zoe. Forget about your champion. I can do it all. You can't even one-shot our support.
This is Calrock's playground at the moment.
He gets the empowered tether and he heals off that and says, you can't do anything.
Yeah, I mean... The Diacubs bot lane have just had a tremendous performance. You know, we were talking about the UQU mid-jungle having an absolute 1v9 performance, but you have to look at this game and say Calrock and Cupcake have really just put this game on their back and said, you know what, guys, it's okay, we'll carry this one. And they've done it. You know, they drafted well. They had a very strong 2v2 matchup. Wei and Why Not often path towards that lane and were able to get them the leads required to just carry this game.
Well, what a spicy way to start up this best of 5 here when it looked all to be Diacubs. A moment during that mid-game where the Union were able to rise up to the occasion, find some decisive picks to flip the game back in their favor. And just like that, the risky shot call, let's do Baron, became their undoing.
Now, the thing about this game, Skimmy, is that Diacarbs did win it, and I do think there's some tweaks to pick ban that Diacarbs could make to make this game a lot easier for themselves, which includes banning that Zoe. But for me, UQU have the most obvious problems to fix in draft that potentially could make a world of difference. So, you know, for me, this is such a close series. Yes, it's 1-0 to the Diacarbs, but I think with tweaks here and there to both drafts in that game, that probably gets them over the line, and I'm excited for what's to come.
You mentioned it could have been a bit of an ego draft there in the mid lane especially. What does it feel like? You know, you haven't had this champion allowed for such a long time. You played really well, but unfortunately unable to carry it again right now. And to say, well, you got your best champion, but you're going to lose. Maybe a bit of mental warfare playing in their minds right now. We'll get to find out because we're going to take a quick break. And when we return, it'll be game number 2.
Dawn
And welcome back, as we see that the Dicubs will lead this best-of-5 grand final with the very first game. It was a game that showcased in the first 15 minutes that they were well under control with big CS leads, with individual kills fan, with big reasons to smile. But there was that one moment during the mid-game where you want, okay, hang on a minute, had the Union woken up to what their composition is able to achieve? Had maybe Dicubs bitten off a little bit more than they could chew? But it seems to be that the Baron curse remains at whatever level we play here, Juves.
Yeah, Baron is the biggest killer of teams in 2020, I think, and They just felt the pressure of Dicubs, right? You know, the Dicubs didn't panic when it got to the mid-game phase. I would say prior to the Baron, that the UQU were in firm control of that game. Wherever the Kha'Zix went, wherever the Zoe went, they were able to just pretty much make any play that they wanted. And they were probably about to start stacking up some Mountain Dragons for their Malphite. Now, the problem was that Clint got a little bit too kind of safe in the side lane, or felt a little bit too safe. Got picked. UQU then said, okay, if they're attacking our side lane and bot side of the map, we need to do something somewhere else. When ultimately they probably could have just waited, let Clint respawn and play the game a little slower. And to Dicubs' credit, they were able to punish the Baron. And what we saw at the Baron fight was just a product of superior laning. Kelrock was able to get really far ahead, just team fight that Baron extremely well, pick up 2-3 kills, whatever it was, as well as the Baron. And pretty much once that Baron goes down, it's like a 3 or 4k swing, and it was just hard to come back from if you're a UQU fan.
Certainly was, because that then meant they were going into a fight 4v5 with a Baron buff as well to deal with, into a soul point decider, which ultimately for them, they were unable to achieve. Game number 2, they're going to change sides, they're going to change up the draft a little bit as well. And you mentioned at the end of that game, you wanted to see a few adaptations here made by Queensland. They're going to ban away the Caitlyn bit, they are red side, so be interesting to see now, Jubes, what other changes that they make to not fall victim here in a best of 5.
Look, I think Caitlyn's a good ban. I just don't think Caitlyn paired with Taric does that actually anything in lane, especially when you're versing Jhin Karma. You know, they kind of match your range, and Karma outranges your Taric, so, you know, if anything, this is a good adaptation from them. They're not going to be playing either side of it, and it's just pure bot lane ban. So Jhin will still be open. I wonder if that's going to be kind of first pick, but, you know, it leaves open the possibilities of Ezreal, of Jhin, of Senna. I know UQU's a bot lane that we see play Senna a whole bunch, and wasn't picked last game, but potentially they pick it this game because Ashe is off the table too. Ashe does make Senna lane a bit of a rough time.
The first bans all remain the same. The only adaptation is that they've subbed out the Yasuo and they've replaced it with the Caitlyn. Otherwise, we are looking at a repeat of what game 1 opened with, and the same also with the Volibear here for Why Not.
Yeah, Volibear, I wonder if they'll respond with the Kha'Zix. I wouldn't mind seeing Unshackled play something like the Nidalee. You know, we've seen him play Nidalee before, and the tempo-style junglers do suit his playstyle, especially when he's able to accrue a bit of a level lead, potentially see the fight. So Senna is picked up here, something that we thought would happen.
Still he is. Farmer's played it twice. Every single time he's played it, it's been with some kind of enchanter, be it the Karma or the Maokai, if you're looking for a fasting Senna variation. It'll be interesting to see what they decide to lock in here today. And also on the same facet, well, they'll go with the likes of an Ornn. We didn't see it played in last game. No need to, but definitely a champion that Zorenes has been a big fan of, but was able to win just as convincingly on the Scion there.
Now, we could see a Senna Karma lane, which, you know, in its own right is strong, but also very punishable. So we could see that, or we could see Amatul play the Karma. He has played that before, so he is no stranger to the Karma pick. But again, I think he's a little bit wasted when you do put him on these utility mid laners.
Well, we wondered when we'd see it. There it is. Waze is here. Played it twice last week in the semi-finals, and for good reason too. He, in many exchanges, was just able to not only win the 1v1s, but then rock up to big team fights, hit an Empress Divide, and just take 3 people immediately out of the equation.
So I think with that means that the Karma is going bot lane.
Yep.
And Zoe into
especially when a Zoe's available. You'd seem it'd feel criminal to put Amatul into a Karma duty when that is available for him.
Yeah, and it's Zoe into Azir. You know, it's always going to be a control mage versus control mage matchup, but you know, we saw Amatul able to run away with that matchup in terms of the 1v1 against Wei, and you know, maybe this is Wei's more comfortable champion. What's he going to do in this? Is he able to, you know, bully the mid laners like he has kind of before in the past on the Azir? You know, we saw him really dominate Tekka on this champion.
Lux was banned away last time, and they're going to ban away again here today, but it's going to be a bit of a change up from the side of the Diacops. They're going to go for an Olaf ban this time around. We've seen that Unshackled has played it already. Only played one this entire season, but it's definitely no stranger to the bruises and the tanks himself, despite in recent times being a little bit more keen to play some of the more damage-focused, carry-oriented junglers.
I think Trundle would actually be a good ban here from the Diacops. Taking away Trundle because, you know, Zoranus historically plays a bunch of tanks, and you just give Trundle too much value in this game if you leave it open. I know Trundle did get nerfed, but they've opted in to ban the Urgot away from Clint, and he has had some pretty big Urgot performances, so, you know, that does make a little bit of sense.
Yep, we saw a situation where he was down 2 levels, still able to find a solo kill when that wave was getting crashed in topside, so interesting to see it still be shown the respect it deserves. UQU, however, not going to go with the likes of a Trundle, a Graves, or even the Nidalee. Nope, they're going to go back to what worked for them and what they feel is the go-to pick. They're going to go with the Kha'Zix once again.
Yeah, and I mean, this Kha'Zix is potentially has a little bit more value in this game. We'll have to see what they pick up. Nautilus locked in, so they're opting in for that kind of kill bot lane, right? If any hook lands, then they're able to just really burst down that target, as opposed to, you know, the UQU bot lane's just going to opt in for the poke, being able to just war of attrition, chip away at the turret, you know, pick up those center souls and win through kind of just starving them out, if you will. And Shen locked in here. Wonder what he's going to respond with.
Yeah, Shen locked in here. We saw Zoranus play it in their last game. We've seen him play it during a regular split as well. One that can definitely give them a few avenues of further turret dives. We already know that the Volibear is going to be very keen for that kind of play to take place. And hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. That's going to be a Vayne locked in as our final pick here for UQU. They don't care about consistency. So they make small tweaks. They make small adaptations, but then they completely free a curveball like that.
It could be center support, and then you could opt in for the Karma top lane. You know, that is a possibility. We won't know until the clock kind of ticks down before they do their final swaps, but...
Are we looking at a Vayne top lane? This seems like a bit of a blast to the past.
Is Clint a Vayne player? I actually don't know. I'm actually not sure.
Doesn't showcase it in his competitive history. Maybe it's a secret pick. He said prepared, ready and waiting for this grand final. What do you think about it going into a Shen in a 1v1?
I mean, any range matchup, any range ADC beats melee champs, right? But the volatility comes in when you're laning against a Volibear and a Shen. Because the Vayne to win that lane is going to have to push, right? It's going to have to be... It's going to have to shove the lane, harass Shen when Shen walks up to CS, but then also you leave yourself susceptible to the flash taunt. Now, there's no real reacting to a flash taunt. Unless you flash when you see Shen channel E, but then, you know, he may do it as a bait, and then you lose your flash, and then you're dead anyway. So generally, when ADCs go top, specifically Vayne, they're in for a world of pain because they just get permacamped, and you know you end up playing the game with one champion less because Vayne offers nothing. So UQU are going to have to play this Vayne extremely well. And now, if I'm looking at chat, there's a lot of variance in Clint's Vayne. A lot of people are saying Clint's Vayne is just going to absolutely pop off. And then I believe the coach of UQU actually says Clint's Vayne Monka S. So now if your coach is saying Monka S, something happened in draft. Yeah.
Well, what I will say there, Jubes, as much as we talk about his ability to play the likes of Urgots, Malphites, and Vladimir's, he has played one ADC in the top lane. It came in the last week in week number 10. He played a Tristana into a KO. That was up against Legacy Genesis, so he's shown that he does like to play the ADCs from time to time, but the Vayne feels like a far more volatile pick, and one that if he gets ganked, he's in a whole bunch of pain and trouble.
I didn't mind the comp of UQU until they did opt in for the Vayne top. So now I'm just going to go ahead and say I just don't like their composition at all, but not saying it can't work. I mean, obviously they're picking it because it works for them. I hope they are anyway. So, you know, if Vayne does get ahead, it's going to be a hard time for the Volibear and the Shen to deal with you. But the problem with Vayne isn't that Vayne doesn't do damage. You know, it's not that Vayne doesn't scale into games. The problem is that Vayne's just so short range. So if this Azir is even remotely strong, right? Let's say this Azir is even, not even strong.
Okay.
It's hard for Vayne to play the game.
Well, that's the question, right? Because look at how many range tools they have. The Shen taunt, the Volibear jump on your head, Azir, as you say, Nautilus. I mean, you're looking at a rapid fire cannon first item, which, let's be honest, is not viable.
No, rapid fire first, but even then you still get outranged. Like the
Exactly.
Azir is going to outrage you anyway. And so like, maybe this Vayne makes sense if it's another short range mid laner and you're able to just kind of, maybe like it makes sense if it's a Galio or something like that. But, here we are, we're in this realm where if the Vayne does get rolling, potentially you can just tank the Azir, tumble through Blade of the Ruin King and Bob's your uncle. But until I see it, I'm not going to believe it.
So my question then, Jubes, is in another game, we've got ourselves a situation where UQ are just trying to funnel as many carries into a composition as possible. I look at it and go, well, where's their tank? Where's their durability? Where's their ability to survive and have somebody face check those brushes? Because for the Diacubs, if I look at them doing a turret dive, they can throw so many bodies at you. And you can flash, you can have the fancy feet, but eventually you're going to exhaust all those options.
Yeah, I mean, UQU's composition is just a pure mechanics max comp, right? How good are you compared to your opponent, right? Senna Karma bot lane versus Aphelios Nautilus. Just a skill check. Are they going to get hooked? Are they going to get punished? Are they going to land their skill shots and vice versa, right? Looking to the mid lane, bit of a skill check matchup too. What we saw last game's Amateur's got that one covered on Zoe, okay? Can Wei, come back into this game and have a really standout performance? This jungle matchup, if it goes anything like the last time we saw it, just power farming to level 6 and potentially they try and influence a lane or turret dive. And then we got a mechanics max top lane matchup where it's can Zoranus bleed less than required, right? And can Vayne get as accelerated as he needs to be in this matchup? Because traditionally when you see marksmans go top lane, the Shy is someone who's really popularized ADC's top, with the Lucian, with the Callista. I don't know if he's played much Vayne, but the point still stands is that the top laner should have like a third of your CS, a quarter of your CS, and you're just so far stronger that it doesn't matter. Whoever comes to the side lane, you pretty much just 1v2.
I'm interested as to what this actually then means for Unshackled, given what you mentioned before about them both waiting to level 6 in the jungle situation for game number 1. We saw that the Volibear was able to then steal away his red buff. In the end, did it really mean too much? Not really, as Unshackled was able to keep up tempo and actually put himself in a 2-level advantage, despite the game at some stage has been against them. But does this maybe change up his priorities? Do Diacubs read into this one and say, well, they're probably going to try and attack top lane as hard as they can to make sure that this Vayne is a viable pick and they're not looking to fight a fight that is a 4v5?
Yeah, you don't want to be fighting 4v5s, right? It's more about just stalling time and waiting. You want to let your side lane just do all the winning, and you're just pretty much there just doing the wave clear and saying, hey, have you won the game yet? Because in a pure 5v5, unless the Vayne's just like 3 items ahead or 2 items ahead, you'll probably lose if they play it like humans. So, not aliens. That's a popular term, right? You got to play it like humans. You can't play it like the aliens. But it's probably the aliens might be better at League of Legends. I'm sure if they come to the server, they'd probably be able to teach us a thing or two.
Let's see if they can have an out of this world performance in game number 2. Diacubs lead the series. They lead this best of 5 grand final here in the OCS. And they're going to see if they can make it a flawless win at just that. They're all grouping up topside now. This is cheeky. We mentioned how will they respond to this Vayne top lane. This looks rehearsed. This looks ready. And this looks like Clint in a lot of trouble right now. They're going to flash forward to commit to this one. No, they're just going to sweep out and deny that ward. Not overexert himself at this early stage.
I would have flashed for that. That would have been a Chad flash. Burning the Vayne's flash there for anyone's flash is worth it, in my opinion. Because then Vayne can't play how Vayne wants to play. But, Clint was playing on the edge there. Very well played not to die there. Because the trick is standing in the furthest part of the bush is how you don't get punished. And that's what happened there. That's what we saw Clint do. Stood in the furthest part of the bush. Was able to walk out as soon as he saw, the slightest champion portrait and was able to walk that one out.
Certainly did. No punishment and no summoner lost. As the University of Queensland's Union will now be put in a position of scouting out every single bush for a potential second invade. As we do see Zoranus now winning topside, expecting Clint to go there for the leash. Question is, which path will he take back? Will he now actually go for a more defensive option of not going through try? That's what you can see Shen is kind of banking on, but he's not going to read into that one whatsoever. Yeah,
so this actually may... If Clint pays attention... Yeah, okay, he didn't pay attention. Could have got a few more autos down there, potentially had a bit of a cheeky trade. Stop Shen from getting the EXP there, but here we are, we're in lane. So Shen started Q.
Certainly did, and given the fact that both will be running this teleport, just seems to be that they want to try and match, and as Shen will then no doubt be looking for those Stand Uniteds to have a great impact on his team when those dives will take place. It'll be a case of, well, what can you achieve topside then, Vayne? Do you want to come down here, or do you want to try and achieve some plates and a little bit of extra gold? No doubt that Blade of the Ruined King spike will be huge in the context of this game in isolation, but as soon as you bring in those junglers into the equation, changes up completely.
Pre-6, I'd love to see the focus from Volibear be topside, and then once level 6 happens, you pretty much just want to see the Shen ulting to bot lane and really just punishing the UQU lineup. You know, you're never going to outscale a Vayne in the 1v1 or outscale Vayne in the split, so it makes more sense to get the lead elsewhere, right?
So he does, and this might be the lane to try and find it. Meta side, UQU have found themselves a composition which finds a lot more harmony. They went for the Caitlyn Tarot game 1. Both looking to try and achieve very different things, and as a result, it cost them severely in that laning phase. A lot of pressure then had to go through mid for the Zoe to carry the weight. But this one, between Senna and Karma, so much harassment to ensure that when the Cupcake does try and step up for a hook, he's going to be very low going into it.
So far, better laning phase from Wei. Forcing the Zoe to use pretty much all the corrupting potions and farm this wave under tower. So we're going to see a little bit of a CS lead build up in the mid lane, unless unless Amatul can perfect CS this, which I don't think he's going to be able to because he is getting quite low.
Another game, another Zoe.
Here's the gank in the top lane.
He's going to be quite happy with how ones have played out so far, but this is what you wanted to see, and this is what we're going to get. A flash, a taunt, that's just Clint in so much trouble, and that's going to be a very easy first blood. That will go the way of Shen, and makes his job so much easier.
There's nothing you can do, right? I mean, this is part of the problem when you pick Vayne top. Probably missed his window in where he could go warding, and obviously there's things that could have been played better, but you force it. Hook lands.
Where there is the hook, there's the passive, but there's the change to respond. A trade that could go either way at this stage. There's the Gravitum, locks them both in place, but the miss might be just enough to deny those autos for a trade to favour the Dire Cubs.
Yeah, but you opt in for this volatility, you opt in for this kind of matchup, and you have to expect this to happen, especially when your Kha'Zix is parting away from the Vayne. Maybe that's a better scenario if Clint starts bot side, but
he's looking. No need to flash, no need to taunt, no need to try and do anything into the last stretch of imagination. Revenge and trouble, burns his flash. And we'll have those potions now rolling. But that's enough pressure that the Cupcake was searching for, and now another easy lane for the Volibear to potentially target.
Yeah, I mean, the Volibear has free reign, right? Still has the flash. Nautilus still has the flash. I would say whenever they want, this Karma is really as good as dead. The heal's not going to save him. You're not going to be able to juke a flash Nautilus auto attack, right? Guaranteed stun, guaranteed CC, so...
Furiously pinging that minimap, were they? As Why Not will look to try and seal away those Raptors. Successful as the smite secures it.
No, Unshackled the one that got that.
And a successful acquisition for him, because I looked for a second there, Drews, that he was a spectator just witnessing his jungle be depleted for a second game in a row.
There's no better feeling in the world than having someone invade you, start your camp or your buff, and you're just sitting, you smite it away. They just did all the gaming for you. You weren't even gaming, you're just watching.
Thanks for the enemy leash. I'm sure is what Unshackled's thinking there, as he now is going to pay attention to top side. Question is whether he will go for that gank or not. As it feels like you've got two different situations to present. Do you make this Vayne valuable? He's gone for the cult, wants to farm. Or do you try and keep up tempo with his Volibear that is once again looking for some very early soul points?
Might have to get the exhaust. Maybe this is a kill in the mid lane here.
He had enough mana. Emperor's Divide, that's clean. The last bit of mana he had, and that denies what could have been an easy execution in the mid lane.
I thought he didn't have enough mana for the Emperor's Divide there, and that was problematic, but gets that one off, and I don't like seeing this. I don't think there's a big enough of a CS lead right now to warrant the Vayne pick. Obviously got ganked, but that's part of the game.
What a taking a risk here, Juves, and whilst we're still very early on into this game, it'll be interesting to see if the payoff will eventually come back. As we've already discussed some of the concerns about what this Vayne will be facing, not only in laning phase, but coming out of laning phase with the amount of range. You talked about the Azir. We know what the Volibear can achieve. There's a ton of gap closes and mobility to ensure that this very close range ADC, whilst can be a hyper scaling champion, just might not be able to find.
And we're going to see their bot lane just being forced off. You're playing Senna Karma, you're down CS, you're down turret plates, you're down summoner spells, and it's just not a good time.
The ideal weapon set up here from Ophelios with the Chakrams to get as many plates as possible. Now, as White on a spot above it, he's forced to try and disengage away. Out comes Stand United, gives him a buffer, gives him a shield, but falls down all the same. There's the taunt, there's the turnaround, 2-for-1 so far. The Die-Cubs welcome it, the Die-Cubs want it, and the Die-Cubs might just find as they look for a triple kill. A 3-man route is just enough as Clint now tumbling, dancing, hoping for a dream, but not finding that prayer. He'll fall on down for another kill, another casualty. Shen is incredibly fed at only the 7-minute mark.
I think we pencil this one into a bit of a draft gap. And pencil this as a draft gap, then maybe we go next. Because you've got a 0-2-0 Vayne top. Yes, you've got a wave bouncing towards him, so he does have that kind of saving grace. But this might be a solo bolo. No, never mind. Not enough juice in the tank yet.
Yeah, definitely not enough damage as a center at this stage of the game. Just wanting to get as many stacks of the passive as possible with the 1-2 tap. That's all she'll need. Potentially a little bit more of a sustained skirmish, however, as the poke, harass, and the CC that both these two can lock down together is enough. But into a Shen, he can shrug off just a whole host of that damage.
They're going to lose Dragon. They're going to lose Rift Herald as well. And so, you know, we're going to see this gold lead extend to probably another 1,000 once they decide to place this Herald down. And, you know, the worst case scenario right now for UQU is that the map's flipped. Vayne is now laning 1v2 into the Ophelios and the Nautilus. Probably going to get turret dove too on this window.
Yeah, they can just disable the turret, summon the Herald, and guarantee the first turret goes their way, with a lot of gold then being invested once more into this Ophelios. He's already up in CS. He was injected a ton of gold as a result of that successful dive bot side. Plates aside, he's going to be far ahead of the clock, as is the Azir too.
Yeah, this Shen hasn't bought yet. I'm kind of interested to see what he has in base. He probably has a full Titanic if he wants it.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me.
The best thing to do against the Vayne, right, is just not buy health. You know, sometimes buying the damage is the best case scenario, because then Vayne loses some damage on the Silver Bolt due to not having enough health. And
well, there's the ultimate, and there's the sidestep, but sidestepping into a Nautilus Hook, never the right place to go for. 1 and 2, the tanks lock you down. You can't do much about that one. There's Carrot to secure the finishing kill, as it is the killing blow at just that. Unshackled, a second casualty possibly, but forced to defensively flash away. And right now, it's the Die-Cubs playing proactively, forcing their opponents to really respond to every single play they make.
And responding they are. This is probably first turret that's going to drop in the top side of the map. Maybe a little bit of an early Herald here, but they're not too concerned about taking the turret. They're just concerned about getting the turret plates. You know, they could have stayed, they could have greeted, they could have chipped that down, so it would have just been a fresh execute from Shelly.
Yep.
People call her Shelly, but in OS I think we should call her Shazza.
Shaz, yeah, seems a little bit more regional appropriate, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think Shazza is a good name. Maybe we call her Shazza in the OCS, but who knows?
Big Shazza getting it done on the Rift right there. 10 minutes in, another game, another situation that favours the Die-Cubs to start off with here. Superior wave clear, superior farm, and superior execution to be at the right place at the right time. You can, I suppose, highlight the draft gap, but just a lot of the understanding as to where they want to be and what they want to focus on is pretty impressive so far. And as you rightly call, there is the Titanic Hydra.
Look, it's very easy to you know, point fingers and say this draft didn't work, and I'm the biggest advocate of, like, you know, you got to set yourself up for success in draft, right? And I think it's fair to say they came in with a plan. They said, okay, maybe this main pick's gonna work, and it obviously hasn't worked for them so far. Now, you also on the other side of that have to say the Die-Cubs have done extremely well in identifying that they needed to punish this Vayne. So they burnt the Taunt Flash, they went there, got the kill, picked that one up. Shen was able to get 6 for free, not behind in that lane. Heal was burnt in the mid lane there from Amatul. Might see a fight break out.
And once again, it's Karok on the bottom side of this map, and that's just more gold. He's got the Chakrams. It just seems to be right place, right time, right setup. That's going to blow this gold lead even further in his favor. Now the team as a whole up by 4K. It's an absurd lead already so early on.
Yeah, it is a very big lead, but we might see a kill here. Shen ulti comes through.
Just denied lead for their Wave flashing away. Out comes the taunt, and there is a denial. Wave surviving on 20 health. Stand United, the difference maker here. Zorenis picks up the killing blow. That makes him 4-0. And now 1v1 takes place in this bottom lane, but Karok is just going to lose to the game itself. The turrets, acting as a 2v1, will ensure that Clint makes A little bit of value from this Vayne pick.
Calrock is, I don't know if you saw what happened there, but maybe we get a replay, maybe we don't, but I think Calrock is never going to live that one down. That is, okay, I know Calrock very well outside of the game, like as in terms of before OCS, and I was a very big advocate for him. I thought he should be in a very good team, and he is. He ultimately is. He's a very good player. But he just hit the turret 2 or 3 times when, like, it was very hard to focus the turret. You know what I mean? Like, you know, there's times where you can say, okay, you know what, I understand how he clicked the turret, right? In that specific scenario, I'm not sure how he hit the turret. So I might have to give him a message after this series and say, hey buddy, how did you manage that one? Because that was so funny.
And we'll need the juicy goss on that one. You can obviously see that the final hour was used there by Vayne, so potentially juking a lot of those skill shots and forcing the A-click to be used in that turret, but potentially the binding to attack champions only could have come in clutch there. Nonetheless, that has allowed Clint to find himself that first item with the Cutlass. Could do work to now locking down those targets and ensuring that whilst he does have some very short range, he's able to chase you down.
What's the next play here? Dragon spawning in 3. Diacubs seem to be rolling all the right dragons, you know, anything but a Cloud Soul really, and
yeah,
they warmed up with a Mountain Soul, and now they're really getting into the business end of things with an Ocean Drake, so Ocean Soul rather.
And they have fantastic Siege, which an Ocean Soul obviously complements even further, right? If you're looking to try and force your fight, UKU have a bit of a rough time trying to defend that. Well, here's the situation. Both mid laners flexing. Amatul gets aggressive. He doesn't have to summon a heal just yet. Dawning Shadow comes across. Unshackled actually gets the killing blow. Vasa Flash still flashing into the taunt that a Volibear possesses. Now slam dunk on your head. That disables the turret and disables your chance of evading. You get a kill, but I'll turn it straight back around. He picks up the turret as well. Zoretis is insanely huge from the start of this game to now. 5-0-1. There is no way you kill him or whoever he looks to buff up.
And this is the problem that you have when you draft the composition of UKU, right? Like you know what you want to do. It's hard to get there, and now they can't be taking fights. So generally, when you play a composition with a Shen, early on into the game, what UKU should have done was focus the other side of the map, right? Because all Shen can do is TP, and a Shen teleport isn't that dangerous. The moment Shen ticks level 6, the actual idea of playing through a Shen lane is the best thing to do because he can't utilize his ultimate if he's the lane you're playing through. And so they're trying to make plays onto the Azir when Shen ulti is up, and it just isn't going to work. And now Shen is so accelerated that playing through the Shen lane is near impossible. Hold that thought, Cupcake got there somehow.
Yeah, he certainly did get there, and he's going to be taken down very quickly as well, saying, hey on, this is our side of the map, and you shouldn't be there. That's a lot of gold and a lot of assists that go the way there for UKU, as Diacubs look to continue to exert their pressure on their map. 2 dragons, and this will be a second Herald.
Yeah, I don't know how he got there. I mean, that's just like kind of maybe greedy warding. That's the best way to say it. And my point was that if this Vayne's accelerated, if this Vayne's not behind and has to play the Ruin King at this point, you know, maybe we do see the Kha'Zix and the Vayne just opt in for punishing the Shen or trying to, you know, but now that the Vayne's so far behind and Zoe's pretty much the only one that's kind of, you know, relatively even, the only option is to fight the Azir, is to make plays, and if Zoranis ever gets there, you're just losing that one. I'll tell you that much right now.
Certainly would be, and interested to see where this game goes once again, as it is the 15-minute mark. The gold lead continues to favour the Diacubs, up by 5k. A Herald to utilize as well to potentially break through this mid lane and make sure that picking up this third dragon just a little bit easier, with the turret plates having already fallen on down. Should be quite an easy deployment with that dragon up in just under 25 seconds. And the ability for an Azir to do something just like this, to continue the waves being pushed against them no matter where they go.
Oh my goodness, that's... Look at that, man. Look at the health he
survives on. Look at the shield. Insane.
Yeah, but... Oh! The Shen's actually just been sacked. That's a lot of gold if they manage to get this shutdown, and they're opting out of the fight because Azir has no health, no TP as well. Oh, Clint nearly sees him there, but they might lose Dragon.
Certainly could do. The Azir turret stands strong for the meantime. A second time Unshackled's been denied of that killing blow with the Stand United coming in absolutely clutch. Question is, will they steal this dragon away? They certainly will. Carrick does it again. Game 1 and Game 2. He picks up Baron's He picks up Dragons as well. Forget about a smite because we're all focused on this team fight. Revenge dropped on down. Carrot picks it up from afar. He's got the dream set up. He's got the sniper. He's got the chakrams, but he's got the moves as well because he needs to disengage very quickly away. Amatul fighting paddle styles from afar, looking to try and kill anybody they can get. And then it'll be Clint now picking up a big shutdown going his way. That could be enough to get that Blade of the Rune King. Can they find more? They certainly can. Amatul, you need that CDR. You need the ability to take somebody out, but the Sand Soldiers, too good, too strong, too much range. Wei returns, and Wei picks up a double.
Look, if you're being optimistic, you know, the UQU did pick up a few big shutdowns. Vayne, more importantly, got the Shen bounty, which was about 900, 800 gold. So watch how this fight plays out. Obviously, Aphelios, that's post Aphelios. But, you know, UQU just doing a very good job staying at range at the moment and picking up the kills. So you'd have to say, after they get this bounty and this shutdown, enough is enough. You know, maybe I'm okay with even trading Amatul for Kalrock there. But I think this is a little bit too much. And all of a sudden, a sort of, you know, beneficial play for UQU just goes south and Wei's able to pick up 2 kills. And if you thought you had Shen to worry about, now you got Azir too.
Certainly do, and whilst UQ would have been happy to pick up a shutdown situation, they've still not really collected the difference between these two teams. That 5k gold that separated them, that remains, and they haven't been able to make themselves keep ahead of this clock. We're looking at, once again, another 22 minute soul point to play for, and coming into this point, this is when UQ really should have showed up last time. Composition obviously a lot harder to execute compared to game 1. And question is, I don't think we'll see any crazy Baron plays this time.
You never know, they got the Vayne, right? Does a lot of damage to the Baron buff. Maybe if they can drag Dire Cubs away, maybe they can trade nah, never mind, Kalrock stole the dragon. I was going to say, maybe they can trade 3rd dragon for a cheeky Baron start, but they're on soul point now and Ocean's not one you want to give away to the Dire Cubs. So yeah,
if you look at the right places, right? Absolutely. I mean, you look at Kalrock, he's already at the 2-item spike.
Yeah, well, he actually stole Dragon too with his ultimate, by the way.
Yeah. He did that in the game 1 as Jhin as well. It's crazy.
Yeah.
If he finds a target, he'll take it down.
Yeah, it seems like he may as well just take Smite heal or something like that, you know, whatever.
40 stacks on the center, so starting to amp up in terms of the range and the damage to contribute. Making sure it's a little bit easier to find that target to lock down with a root and gather more damage.
Yeah, but
to maybe,
you know, the center's opting in for a Black Cleaver, and I'm not sure how I feel about that because Vayne has enough juice in her kit to not warrant the Black Cleaver, right? Majority of Vayne's damage is going to be true. So I would much prefer see this center just opt in for the lethality route and rapid fire cannon, because then you bridge the gap between Vayne's, you know, lull in strength, which you make up for in building lethality. You know what I mean? So like at this point,
make it like a double Umbral Glaive setup.
No, not even a double Umbral Glaive, right? Just opt in for the Dustblade or something like that at this point.
Okay.
Whereas Senna then spikes, Senna becomes extremely strong in the mid game. Then you can opt in for the rapid fire later and some good items to kind of transition into some late game strength. But what it does is it allows Vayne to get the items, allows Vayne to opt into getting the Rage Blade whilst your bot side of the map is still extremely strong. But instead, you're just
I suppose there are 2 ways to look at it. Obviously, the CDR, more options to rotate through the heals, the mist, the root, more pick potential, and make life easier for Kha'Zix to lock down a key target and make sure they're a target that can fall on down very easily. He's already got lethality, and he'll need to try and find it as the Baron spawns at 20-minute mark, and just like that, Diceup say, we have enough to take this down. There is no way for a contest. Clint is not in the area. This is a Baron buff that will go away and will favor us with the soul point to play for on 45.
I'm really surprised they actually didn't opt in for the steal there. You know, this game is obviously getting away from them. It's 7k gold lead now. Soul is spawning. As if you just kind of don't flip the game there and opt in for the Kha'Zix jumping into the pit, going for the smite steal. That was a weird decision for me because you're ultimately going to have to fight this, right? You have to fight this soul, and maybe Vayne has Rage Blade now. That's the only thing I can think of, and they're just deciding to take this fight now rather than point flipping the Baron smite.
It seems to be that way, because if you take a quick look at the score sheet, you're looking at 2 very different stories of one team having 2 item spikes across the board, and the other, very sparingly, is the sort of same situation. Rage Blade is there as you highlight, so It's all the power they'll have, and this will be that one big fight to decide, can they flip this game?
Seeing Zoe landing some poke. See, if the game stays like this, if they're able to just dance here and have no engage upon them, which watch Cupcake on the flank here, potentially flashing the wall.
He hasn't been spotted by Vision as well just yet.
I think he has. They did ping him. There's red pings down on where he was. So they do see him now. They opted in for the center route there. Kha'Zix is on the flank. Got to keep track of every member at the moment because they're crucial to how this team fight plays out. Big damage.
Certainly is. Here's Wade. There's a two-man Emperor's divided just like that. Amatil's gone. Karok finds him. He's dead. He's deleted. It's a 2-for-1, making a 3-for-1, making everything Dicup so far. They're sieging mid. They're sieging you. They've got the flanks, they've got the angles, and they've got the kills to boot. That pixel brush, it doesn't belong to you. We know exactly where you are. Give us the ace. Give us the dream. And give us the buff to close this game out. Just like that, Wade's gone mids. And a Baron buff, it's all the power they need to guarantee everything.
That was pretty clean from Wei, and it was actually, what's more impressive is the communication they had to set that up, right? You know, you could tell that Wei was saying, I'm going to look for the insect, make sure you Shen ult me when I go in, and it was just instantaneous, and you could see it was just a pre-planned play, and when you plan that well in advance, it's rare that it ever goes wrong, and I see another kill here.
Going to be very delayed respawn times if he gets caught out. Going to try and go for the 1v1 here. Going to burn the flash as well. Now that's interesting. Does it still mean he's in trouble? Gets the heal. Just life-stealing there from the rockets. But the empowered cannon minion, he's in so much trouble. He's buying so much time, however. Question is, what's happening top side of the map as we now see him fall on down. Wei's in a situation 1v3 where he can fall on down. Oh, just gets caught. He tried to disengage way into the Baron pit. And he decides, well, no flash, no cleanse. And no need to burn that Zonias as well.
So what we see here, right, we see Wade just setting it up with his top laner saying, hey, get ready. As soon as he sees the Zoe damage coming through, he's had enough. Goes in, Shen ult comes through, and it's honestly, obviously it's a gold gap. I'm not trying to say this fight is a gold gap, but the way that they executed here Dicup was actually pretty insane. And it was such a good team fight from them. But we also see kind of the negatives of UQU's composition too. Not being able to team fight in River, not being able to team fight objectives, and this is what happens when you're behind with the specific composition that they've drafted. And now what's interesting to me, Skimmy, is that this isn't something we're used to seeing from UQU. We always see them with those 5v5 R-Button Go champions, and that's where they've had their most success. And for some reason, they're just opting out.
We sort of talked about this a little bit in the semi-finals as to how you can see almost a false sense of comfort, right? Knowing it's a best of 3 here. We've got another game to really prove ourselves. Obviously, best of 5. A few more opportunities to showcase what you can do, but you've now put yourself in a situation where every game you're playing, if this is to go against them, every game is to try and keep yourself in contention in that series. You're looking at a situation where you're always up against a match point.
Yeah, and so now what do they do, you know? At this point, are UQU planning for next game? Are they planning, or are they still holding on to hope that these Vayne's items are coming through? Zoe's going to get, you know, maybe 1 or 2 more items come on through. The Mirror Man is being upgraded for Farmer, so maybe they have one last hope, but the problem that they have right now is that they're fighting into an Ocean Soul. If they can survive 3 minutes and wait for this Elder Drake spawn, that's probably where they're going to roll their dice, and the damage out of Amatil's still there.
Certainly is, and it means that the Oblivion Orb, you'd want to see it upgrade into a Morello's ASAP at this stage, not only to match the strength that Wei has as this is here, but just to actually combat some of the sieging potential they'll have, knowing that their inhibitors did survive for the meantime, but they have become exposed, and an Ocean Soul could pose them a few problems. Already down by 8k. Need to find any kind of small advantage to try and make up that difference.
Looks like the Dragon's going to be the next objective to contest here. Sorry, not the Dragon. I stand corrected. It's the Baron buff. Seeing pings on the way from UQU as well. Looks like they want to contest. They don't want to give another one away. Vayne's teleport will be up in time for it as well. So if Shen does get there first, Vayne will be soon to follow.
A lot of flashes down as well. Some of them soon to be available. Could be pretty convenient timing with that Baron, as you say, in the next 30 seconds. Something to look out for. What would you like to see UQU do here? I mean, at this stage, it's obviously to vacuum up all the CS that they can find, set themselves up in a situation like this. Maybe find a cheeky pick if Dicups get split.
The first thing I'd like to see them do is pray.
Okay.
Pray they can find a miracle bubble. Pray that the Kha'Zix can find someone isolated and maybe pick them off. And gotta hope it's the Azir or the Aphelios and no one else. Secondly, you know, they gotta get into a neutral objective first. Where Zoe really thrives and has the most success is when you're set up at an objective first, in which they're not, right? You know, they're late to this Baron, and I'm gonna stop because keep your eyes on Wei.
Wei's looking for the montage play once again. He's been put to trouble, instantly cleanses out that one. Cupcake acting as goalkeeper right now, zoning him all away from this Baron buff, which is going to fall on down. There's not going to be a contest here today. Two-man taunt and two members locked in place. He's unshackled now, looking to frontline, acting as the tank, but he's not even that. He gets taken out as both him and Revenge are dropped very low, down to 50%, forced to be going back to their base, really, and preparing for what is now going to be a Baron siege to end this match.
And what do? How do they stop this siege, right? You have two very short-range ADCs, and you know they're not going to be able to wave clear. Zoe's not very good into Baron creeps and being able to wave clear, so it's going to be a very rough time trying to stop this one. And Volibear's just had enough.
Why not one set? There he is. Righteous Glory Australia's everything. You flash, but I still got you. You can't dash, you can't hide, or maybe you can. There's a fantastic shot there now. Unshackled just found out of nowhere into a tank edge. Just at the minute, inhibitor will fall on down, but there's a taunt and there's a root. They can run back to the safety of a mid-Azir turrets. And they have to wait for that Ocean Soul to put in work to top them back up. But that's a 5v4 base defense.
Yeah, I mean, that was just like a bit of an in-play there from Why Not. I think that was more a limit test, I think, than anything, you know. Doing a timer check, there was no danger in losing the Elder Drake. There was nothing really on the line there, if you will, besides maybe ending the game. But, you know, maybe he's having fun, wants to spend some more time in it. Now, this is the only thing, or the thing the kind of UQU get from this is they actually get tempo and they have access to the dragon kind of river, if you will. They have access to the river before Dire Cards. And so maybe Zoe can get down some relevant poke, but she's opting in for the side lane, in which, you know, that's definitely not a bad idea, but ooh, playing with fire is unshackled.
Certainly is, and as you can see there from the score sheet, despite this Shen being up 7-1 and 5, Clint is dead even with him. He picked up the shutdown goal, but he's been farming in the side lane notoriously to keep up with him. But both Azir, as well as this Aphelios, are 2 to 3k ahead of their counterparts right now. They're huge. Unshackled, invisible, looking for the one-shot. Somebody gets dropped down low. That was Kalrock nearly taken out the fight straight away. Azir's looking for a situation. There's the Elder. This could be the difference maker. Can UQ steal it away?
So I think Aphelios is just trying to recycle some guns here. These are not the guns he wants for this fight, and he's just trying to get rid of them. You know, I don't think they're opting in.
There it is again! The two-man's Empress Divide, Daunting Shadow, protection, mitigation, everything that can go their way, but it's just too little too late. Not enough damage, not enough strength to burn through this front line. There's a flash forward, and there's Cupcake showing that experience time and time again. The bot laner Die Cup smurfing. Kalrock gets himself a double. Forget about the Elder. Why not just win a team fight instead? Why not just get an ace? With the respawn time as being this damn long, we are looking to make this best of 5, 2-0.
And we're talking about the Zoe bans that demand respect, but maybe at a certain point you need to start banning away Wei's Azir, because this is kind of 2 games in a row now where, or not 2 games rather in a row, but this is back-to-back Azir performances that have just been huge, you know. These Shurima shuffles have been the sole engage tool for his team, and it's not often that you say that. It's not the Azir that's usually engaging, you know, especially when you're saying that with a Nautilus, but Wei's been huge in these team fights.
And just like that, Jubes, Die Cubs lead the series 2-0. They put themselves in a match point situation. 2 games that have gone completely against what you'd imagine to see here. UQ have changed up their draft. They've tried to draft some very different ideas, but the payoff whilst the risk hasn't netted them a major reward here.
It hasn't, and I think they need to go back to standard. I think standard suit UQU best when they play their front-to-back traditional teamfight compositions, but Dire Cubs have just really found their groove. You know, we saw game 1, little bit of a hiccup. UQU took over. This game, I think it was just Dire Cubs kind of steamrolling the game. You know, everyone played extremely well, and we have a match point coming up.
We certainly do. Match point to look forward to. We're going to take a quick break as we get ourselves and the players ready to go into game number 3. We'll see you soon. And welcome back to the OCS Grand Finals. With the Dicobs lead this best of 5 series 2-0 so far. It's been a flawless start for them so far. It's been a flawless season, really, Jubes, at just that. They're looking to try and go the distance and make it a 3-0. And we'll get to see really what UQ Union can throw back into the mix of things. So they've shown that they are being given their comfort picks, but the picture as a whole just isn't painting the kind of same levels of success as they saw during the regular season.
Look, I think, if you will, the UQU experiment this series has gone on for too long. They need to go back to what's worked for them in the past. And I think that is just the traditional control mage setup with Amatul on a carry, as well as, a tank top, facilitating bot, and a bot lane where Revenge can really make plays. Because Karma, for me, isn't necessarily his champion, right? UQU look their absolute best when Revenge is on something that can just pull the trigger, hit a go button, have some CC, and start team fights.
I mean, we've seen him on the likes of Set, Nautilus, Fresh, and find great deals of success with it. As you already mentioned, the link up between himself and Clint to say, we've got a front line, we've got an avenue to then play through, and we've got an ability to find a kill target for then Amatul to secure. Question is, will he change up? Will the Zoe being banned? And even if it isn't, will he still decide to lock it in? The Dicobs on match point. And they will have red side as UQ Union will look to get themselves the first pick.
I don't think the Zoe will actually be banned. I think that, they're more than happy playing the Azir into it now that they know it works. So, I don't even know if Amateur will opt in for the Zoe because that Azir matchup didn't look too good for him, and level 3, level 4 was really in struggle streak.
And much like we highlight Juves about what Revenge can play for a third game in a row now, that Set and Fresh will be denied away from him. I'm not going to allow him to pick it up. The adaptations continue, however, from the side of Union, with now banning away the Shen. Really putting a bit of an emphasis on that top lane to make it as easy as possible. When the Union say, well, okay, if Caitlyn's up and we have it on first pick, it is 10-15, bear in mind. This is when Caitlyn received the big buff. Well, we're going to lock it in.
I hope we don't see the Caitlyn paired with the Taric again, because that experiment was no bueno. They're going to opt in for the Jhin. That was something that worked for them. Jhin Volibear, I mean, if it's not broken, don't fix it, right? Diacubs opting in for much of the same drafts. It's really up to UQU to find the answer. Diacubs can just do what works for them.
Well, we saw them go, as you said, for the Taric last time. They locked in the Zoe blind just to start things off with because they were kind of confused that it was a let through the draft. I would hate to see them go into that kind of same situation again. I'd love to see them go for an Enchanter support, the likes of Lux, Morgana, or Karma, as you highlight. They tend to be the go-to bans in the second rotation.
I mean, Kate Lux is definitely a strong lane, right? I wouldn't mind seeing that either. Land the skill shot onto Calrock and blow him up with the Kate trap and the net. And again, this is what I like to see, So I was talking about last draft, I thought they should have opted in for. The way Unshackled's been playing the game, I think he would benefit quite substantially from having Nidalee. And now he has that. Clint has the Ornn, Farmer has the Caitlyn, and this is a much better draft so far.
Certainly is, and if it is going to be Unshackled continuing to power farm through the jungle, well, Nidalee is going to be a fantastic ability, has a fantastic ability to push that objective just a little bit further once the item is complete. To say that if we aren't winning those decisive Dragon or Herald fights, we're not even looking to contest, then I can become a carry in my own right.
Yeah, and, the Nidalee matchup's a weird one into Volibear because Volibear does have enough damage to be able to, kill Nidalee level 2, level 3, level 4. And not in terms of a 1v1 by any means, but in terms of, if they do 2v2 or 2v2 somewhere on the map, then the Volibear will probably win that one, right? Now, what happens, though, is Nidalee just farms, builds up enough of a tempo and EXP lead, gold lead, that when Runic Echoes hits, there's not much the Volibear can do in terms of the damage from Volley falls off quite quickly. Nidalee can heal the majority of it and really keep you at range and just play the team fight on her domain or on her condition. And that's what I expect to see in this matchup, and this is, if there's one thing that we've learned from Unshackled is it's just a bit of a resource goblin. It does take a lot of farm. It does eat a lot of lane farm too, so these types of champions do suit him.
What I was going to say is it's very interesting what the Diacubs are bringing out here in the second rotation by banning not only the Kiana but the Irelia as well, just showing a lot of emphasis on no pop-off stand-up bruiser that can try and snowball the lead ahead. It seemed a little bit bizarre to lock that in.
I mean, Zoe at this point would make a lot of sense. I was saying that maybe they shouldn't opt in for the Zoe, but they have the Orianna now. Amatul had a very strong performance into the Orianna. You pair the Nidalee and the Zoe, makes a bit of sense too in terms of what they want to do. Want to siege, want to set up, want to poke. It's So this whole composition makes a lot more sense from UQU. Just depends what they opt in for at the support position.
This is interesting. It's almost as if UQU wanted the Lux to be paired for the Diacubs. They must have something prepared for this one because they've denied away the Karma, they've denied away the Morgana, the obvious go-to picks here for a Caitlyn, but now they're hovering a Nautilus and sort of a little bit like the Fresh, a little bit different as to what they're looking to achieve. What I will say, however, is very easy for the hook to go out, the guaranteed passive to lock them in place, and a trap to go underneath, so a lot more damage potentially here.
I'm surprised they banned the Morgana. I mean, especially when there was no support pick, you know what I mean? There was nothing where,
yeah,
you know, if Cupcake opted in for the Nautilus, then you could just take the Morgana. I think Morgana actually had a lot of value being up here, you know, and UQU are the ones that banned it away, but we have Caitlyn Nautilus lane into the Jhin Lux, you know. The thing is, we talk about Kate needing to take tower, but when you lane with Naut Kate, there is a lot of kill threat, right? You're able... the Yasuo picked up. Okay, that's a big statement.
Okay. Well, it was banned in games 1 and 2, and he feels like, well, you're not showing me any respect. I'm just going to get to pick basically anything I want at the stage. Could this be the game that brings this series back? The final pick for the Diacubs will be the Poppy, the ability to try and knock somebody out of the fight as quickly as they jump in. There's also a situation here, Jubes, where UQU are fighting an uphill battle. They're looking for the reverse sweep.
Yeah, this is probably the best draft UQU have had all night in terms of the first 2 games. You know, I would have liked to have seen the Lux, the Morgana potentially paired with the Caitlyn. I think it has a lot more synergy, a lot more value, but if Nautilus does land the hook, then there is a lot of kill threat. You know, you pair that with the trap, get the empowered auto attack, you net as well for the empowered auto into a Q. There's a lot of damage that comes through from Caitlyn, you know, not known as the burst champion, but in terms of laning phase, if you get everything down and get the combo off, then Caitlyn does have the burst. But again, this lane is kind of, the onus is on UQU to get something done, because if you just match scaling, the Lux is outscaling the Nautilus 9 times out of 10, right? You know, the max shield on the W, and they're happy to just go even in lane or just chunk your bars out. So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one. I think this bot lane, this game rather, is gonna pivot on this bot lane, and it's gonna be very important to see who can get the lead, or if they can even come out even, because it's been multiple games now where we haven't really seen them come out even. The UQU lineup.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a good point to bring up, because if we just turn our attention to Revenge to start off with on the side of UQU, he's had his Fresh and his set denied away. We said, okay, you played the Enchantress, that hasn't looked to be the go-to so far, maybe a Nautilus, and as much as the Lux Morgana may have made sense, they've decided, no, we just want engaged, we want more frontline members. It's been something they've been severely lacking to open up this series, so it's going to be an avenue of them to try and showcase a bit of a skill matchup there in the bottom lane. But on the flip side, as we've seen come to great effect so far from the Diacubs, is mitigation. The shields have been crucial. How many times do we see that Stand United just be the difference maker when that key target trying to get destroyed was down to, what, 30 HP?
Yeah, well, it was the difference maker, and it feels like everyone on the Diacubs has had their kind of opportunity to carry the game. You know, generally speaking, it's always like a one-man show. You know, when you see a best of 1 or a best of 3, it's like, okay, you know, it was the mid lane that carried this one, or it was the top lane that carried. But I feel like every single person on the Diacubs has played their role, you know. Wei on the Azir had some very big engages. Why Not had some very good early games on the Volibear. Zoranus on the Shen had probably a 1v9 performance, you know, in the early game. And Calrock and Cupcake, obviously, I don't need to tell you what they've done in this game. So it's kind of like, who's going to pop off now from Diacubs? Is it just going to be a collective effort again? What's going to happen? And more importantly, from UQU, who's going to step up? Because now, you know, I would say this is the most UQU-esque comp that we've seen all series. You know?
It has been. And it's what you mentioned, right? It's a composition that presses R and they do it with so much strength. I mean, we've seen what they can do when they do press their R. We saw a glimpse of it in game number 1, right? When the mouth fight came on free and you thought, hang on a minute, this is what they built themselves on. This is what they pride themselves on.
And they looked they actually looked their best, you know? Yeah. They could have won that series. And their draft wasn't good. They could have won that series. And, you know, whereas, like, you know, you got your Caitlyn who's going to have an Infinity Edge. Your Yasuo is going to have an Infinity Edge. So you've got 2 ornament upgrades that are super efficient and super beneficial. You know, your Nidalee is going to act as magic damage. Ornn's got magic damage. They're going to be able to, you know, enhance the damage that comes through from Caitlyn and Yasuo, because Nidalee is probably going to opt in for the Athenes. So whilst it's not necessarily like a traditional composition you could use, you know, you're not going to tune into LCK and see this comp, or you're not going to tune into LEC, LCS and see comps like this. But this is a UQU comp, and I really like it for them. Whereas,
it's their
you know,
style, it's what works for them, it's what we sort of expect to see from them, right? Basically.
Yeah, and then you look at the Diacubs comp, and then you say the same thing, you know. But their comp is actually more kind of, I would say, the word is maybe respected in terms of global League of Legends. You know, the Volibear is obviously a priority. Orianna is just a safe staple mid laner. Jhin Lux, you know, Lux to deny the Kate Lux, but then you have Jhin that also synergizes quite well. You know, you're able to land the abilities from range, land the Jhin Zap, and play the fight at your own range, really. That's ultimately what this bot lane does, and just trade around that. So Diacub's comp makes a lot of sense, and both can 5v5, and I think it's really going to come down to execution. But if I'm being super critical, the UKU again can't fall behind, because if you fall behind with the Yasuo comp, you're as good as done.
You certainly are. And what is he looking to try to empower his ability to hit those big ultimates? So obviously the ability for the Nautilus with the ultimate, with the Clint with the ultimate as well. The ability for them to say, we're going in, we're pressing R, we're all going to press R together and hope that we can high five in the air and watch the enemy fall down from afar. It's going to be a situation where they're going to need to find a snowball. We talk about it time and time again in this series. But they can't afford to make any more mistakes. They're down 2-0 in this series. It's a best of 5. They're up against a match point here with the Diacubs. And the Diacubs come into this one, you know, undefeated during the split. Undefeated really across these playoffs as well. They've only suffered 1 defeat on a game basis. But from a series as a whole, they've won everything.
They have won everything, and they're about to 3-0 grand final if UKU don't have something to say about it. You know, who for you has been... Let's talk rosters.
Yeah.
Who for you has been kind of a standout for Diacubs throughout this year?
For me, Kalrock. I think Kalrock's been the go-to just for the fact that he's had so many different support players with him. Just at a glance, we've seen him play with Cupcake, Kimchi, and Amelg. They've all showcased very different champions, be it enchaners, tanks, facilitators, protectors, you know. So the ability for him to come in week out and showcase that he can play at a consistent level, for me, is fantastic.
Yeah, and you know, I would say that on the side of UKU, for me, a player that, you know, I don't need to talk about how hyped Amatul is and what we've said about him throughout the whole year, but for me, Revenge is someone who's really been underrated, and when given the tools to success, when given what he's comfortable with, he really does have some standout performances.
And he most certainly does, and he'll be looking for another one of those today here, Jubes. Game number 3, a decisive one, an important one, and a one that could be the small step that turns into a jog to run it back for a reverse sweep, or for the Diacubs, the game that could end out to be a 3-0. A bit of creative energy to start off this game here as flashes were exchanged and kills were potentially being looked at for a first blood.
I'm a firm believer of that. Laners trading flashes for junglers level 1 is just never worth. Because what you're saying now is just come bot lane and kill me. So, you know, Why Not's got that one in the back of his head and he said, okay, I remember that. You know, you want to flash on me level 1? Well, wait and see what happens. You see on the way pings at the red buff, potentially looking for a steal or some sorts. Maybe Diacub's looking for a bit of a late invade. Never mind.
Yeah, definitely with that wall down there. Will be cleared out though, and a zombie will be there for protection in case Unshackled does get a late invade on top of him.
You know, my one criticism of Unshackled is he actually seems to, for me at least, path to the wrong side of the map. Like, he doesn't take matchups into account, right? So he has a Nautilus, Caitlyn. Now, I'm not saying that they're a lane that's, you know, going to provide you a lot of priority if you don't start with a leash, but letting them start in lane versus Jhin Lux is going to give them a far better time. And you also, what you get to do is that you get to path towards volatility. And so, like, you know, at the moment, he's pathing towards a Poppy and Ornn lane. Now, that couldn't be more snooze fest if it tried, right? No matter what you do to that lane, they're just going to do what they do as champions. And so, as I say that, he paths towards bot side of the map, and maybe he's going to look for something at level 3, but maybe he bases. I'm just going to hold and see what he does here, but my main criticism was that he doesn't end on the right side of the map sometimes. And I think, you know, it would be far better for him to end his path, helping his bot lane out.
Obviously, Revenge running the Hex Slash there, so still has some surprise factor from a Shrub at least to find a fight, find a target, and lock them down for an easy spear to connect. Obviously, running Electrocute ensures that there's a ton of damage that could come their way to combine with the Caitlyn. We'll get to see where he decides to go right now, because he has been locked in place on the bot half of this map. As I say that, Why Not's going for a bit of a full clear as he goes to start his second buff.
Yeah, but he's down. This Nidalee clear is pretty inefficient. He's actually down a little bit of tempo and pops his head into the mid lane for a bit of a nothing gank. You know, sure, get a little bit of a chunk down onto the way, and it is what it is. That's nice, but he did his red, shrugs, I think, hoping that there was an angle to gank bot lane. But now he's just down tempo to a Volibear, and he'll be able to catch that one up. It's not crucial, but it's just a little bit of an early game hiccup.
Just like that, flash of flash, Cupcake looking for the binding, won't find it as Summer responds and Revenge can disengage away. He burned his Ignite, bear in mind, so a potential fight was being looked at for the Union, but the numbers advantage and the aggressive nature that Deluxe possesses was enough to force them back.
Yeah, that's enough to stop or to deter the gank, deter the 2v2.
Massive wave now that's going to crash in as they go for the reset and be up to Farmer to find as much CS as he can. Wei returns to mid lane as Why Not continues. He's got no camps to clear at this stage, nothing to steal away from the enemy jungle, so he's going to look for a reset at the same time. I'm interested to see how far ahead this Yasuo can get. He's had really free reign. Both mid laners really have. No respect being shown, no real care about what they play. It's just a straight up skill matchup between the two of them.
It looks like he loses a reset base here, though. I actually didn't get to see if the mid lane was frozen or slow pushing towards Orianna, but you know, Amato is going to be sitting in this lane, no pots, no items, with a wave kind of... Okay, the wave is slow pushing towards Orianna, so he's going to have to chunk... Hard push that wave, take a bit of damage and try and get out, but you see Lux coming through mid lane, looking for a gank as he pushes this one out, so it could be a bit of danger in the mid lane.
It's got exhaust, could look for a fight if the binding connects. Amatul needs to get the wind wall up, already used, and going to find safety underneath his turret, so no fight will continue there.
Yeah, but see what happens now is that wave gets the freeze. So this is a big wave to freeze, and Amatul's going to lose a lot here. You know, he's not basing because he knows that it is such a huge wave to base on, and okay, now he is. Now he's decided to base. But this is going to be frozen like the Ice Ages. You know, this is not moving anywhere anytime soon.
Hundreds of years.
Yep. And there's no global warming stopping this one.
Nope, certainly isn't. If we're talking about that timeline, we're millions of years away from that one. Not even Aphelios can catch up with those numbers just yet, but he will return back to this lane with the Berserker Greaves. Still has the Ignite, so still has kill pressure there. Whether or not their bot lane can find an angle for the Nautilus to be allowed to roam and find success and pressure as well.
First dragon going to be picked up from UKU, so seeing a little bit of a momentum swing, if you will, in these games. You know, this has been all Diacub so far, being able to pick up the first dragons and some neutral objectives, but good to see that they're utilizing their lane well and playing around their priority.
First two games, the first 5 objectives went the way of Diacubs. No real interest was shown by UKU as a response. It was a case of, well, we just want to scale up, we want to get some items, we want to go for major team fights when we're forced to, as opposed to looking for very early tempo soul points. That has been the story of this game so far. 22-minute souls that have been contested, and a lot of games being won or lost based off that just alone.
We might see a 2v2 in the mid lane, but Orianna has hit 6 first, and this was the product. This is a product of the wave being frozen for so long. So you look at Yasuo, okay, just being 6. Never mind, I'm going to shut my mouth.
He was up in CS before, and obviously lost a little bit of that lead as a result of the freeze that you were highlighting. But level 6 is there, that's the all-important one to look forward to. Now, question becomes, does he stay mid? Or does he roam and look for a kill with his jungler?
So Wave's going to eat this wave, teleport back. You know, not going to be too crucial, and he'll TP it back with a decent buy and be able to trade again with this Yasuo. So at the moment, he's just kind of just biding his time. Nidalee just happy full clearing, and much more stable early game coming out of UKU, and this is something we haven't seen.
Certainly is. They're playing this bot lane a lot better so far, able to find themselves a nice little situation where they threaten kill pressure and showcase that it's not going to be so easy now for you as an opponent to command the respect that you're after. As we look back to top side, it continues to be really the Brawler Bros just having a go at it, looking to stack up that grasp as quickly as possible.
Ubisoft just posted a meme on Twitter about the Vayne lock-in that we saw last game. It's a bit of a 40-second video, but I mean, man's got time on his hands now, or should I say one hand. Amatul's looking for a trade here. Volibear's ganking.
Amatul needs a little bit of assistance right now. Flashes into Shrub, doesn't lose vision, however, because there was a ward. When wall goes down, it prevents any follow further up, as there now will be unshackled for a 2v2.
So Shockwave was burnt earlier. I didn't see where Shockwave was burnt because I thought Amatul was probably as good as dead there.
Definitely wasn't a lot of trouble, but you can see that Volibear's hanging around right now. Wei should have that ultimate up in the next, say, 15 seconds. Has a flash that can continue to utilize the surprise factor. But Revenge is aware of what could potentially happen and is there for the assistance to ensure that he finds it. Flash to flash once again. Wei will not fall on down, and whilst he was posturing aggressively,
That's a good
Yin
trade of
has to
flashes.
run back.
They're one of those trade of flashes that I think's really worth it, and gonna have to look at being punished by UQU because Revenge's first flash wasn't punished. You know, they were able to lane, didn't get ganked, able to survive. You know, will Wei's flash get punished now?
It's a good question. And one that Revenge will be spotted on as he goes up top sides. Black Ops will just push that wave in and wait for that Herald to spawn and look for a situation in which they may wish to contest it. With mid and top now pushed in, there's a bit of a contest taking place to the enemy blue buff. We have to see what's going on there, if the skirmish will break out.
Spear lands, will he opt in for the leap? Or Volley's going in instead?
No, they're going to go for the disengage. Comes the Curtain's Call, just like that. Revenge in so much trouble. The first blood goes the way of the Orianna. Curtain's Call final shot will not find success, will not look to try and find a second. But the health that ultimate affords you, the ability to jump in and say, we don't care about the blue buff, we just want gold, is just enough.
Yeah, but you also got to look at the item buys, right? You know, Caitlyn has the pickaxe, has a cull. Jin had the cull as well as the BF sword, so bit of a item disparity there, as well as Lux landed the biting onto Nautilus, and there was nowhere for Nautilus to proc the aftershock. So, you know, if Naut doesn't have aftershock, one of the squishier supports in the game. Didn't have anyone to auto attack, anyone to hook, so just goes down like a fly there.
Well, you can see, much like the Diacub brands, they commit members to it. And, well, now Zeren's just going to respond back to his bottom lane. And it looks to me as if he's just going to die to a turret. And whilst he had a huge CS lead, he's just lost it like that.
Sometimes the CS lead's the worst thing in League of Legends, because if you see your CS lead growing, sometimes you just, you've had enough and you want to get the kill and you don't think they're allowed to be in the lane anymore, and that's actually what happens. Just throw your lead.
For the all-in underneath the turrets, and even without the assistance of the Call of the Forge God, was able to pick up that kill. That could be a big one in the context of this game, because Clint wants to get as many levels under his belt as possible to ensure that once these two Infinity Edges are there for the taking,
here we go.
They will match them with power, that is certainly for sure.
They're just trying to, they're really trying to punish this Orianna no flash, you know. She's still got 2.5 minutes in that flash being down, so each time Nidalee clears the jungle camp, just pops his head into mid lane, seeing if Yasuo can get a knock-up going, and maybe Gragas would have been a better pick here if they knew they were opting in for the Yasuo, then potentially Gragas-Yasuo combination, Orianna dies there.
Certainly could be. It's a combination we haven't actually seen Unshackled played, hasn't ever played the Gragas, tends to stick with the physical damage junglers. To showcase what he can do when it comes to AP tempo. Runic Echoes is there now, and just like that, they continue the pressure when it comes to these neutrals. They got the first dragon, they'll get themselves the first herald. Second dragon will go across, and the curse has been avoided here, Juves. No cloud dragon still. We're looking at an infernal soul point to close this one.
We're seeing pings on the way in mid lane. Might see a 2v2 here. Volibear is waiting in the darkness, in the fog of war.
Looking for it. Has a flash if need be. Has a blue smite to lock somebody down. Comes the TP, as you say. Diacubs is with a 3v2 situation. Not able to buy enough CC to lock those targets in, who will just disengage to the top side of river.
Now, this is 2 times now that I would like to see why not use his flash. You know, the Volibear gets the Nimbus cloak whilst flashing. Being able to land the stun almost guaranteed on any member. He knew his Poppy was teleporting in as well, but didn't opt in to chase the kill there, and bit of a resource wasted. Rift Herald's going down top side as well, see on the way pings from Nidalee. They may opt in for the dive here.
Yeah,
that's
so
just
going to match
the
that pressure by going down bot side. As you can see, the ultimate cancels out that wave, and the ultimate will not be used to disable the turret, just to achieve at least one turret plate to put it in lethal range. The problem is still there for the taking.
Yeah, the problem UQ have though is they don't have enough damage to warrant Poppy leaving the turret. And that's just the AD gap right now. You know, the BF sword versus no BF sword. Caitlyn had a BF sword here, potentially we see this turret go down, but Zoranus is just mega 1v2ing these camps, even with a Rift Herald.
Go down a little rather than late. Out comes the copter, but it doesn't connect onto a key target. No passengers found here today. The hero will be summoned, and they're going to get it as close as possible to lethal range. The headbutt secures it, and that'll be the first turret falling on down, just like that, flashing away there from the depth charge, and ensuring that there's no follow-up with the last breath, as Yasuo was in the area. Just a little bit too far away to hit with his own.
So you'd have to say, decent kind of win there for UQU, you know, being able to get first start. They are ahead gold, and I think the first time in the series they're ahead gold at 15 minutes, so nice little adaptations from them.
I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that they have been willing to go for these objectives. As you quite rightly say, these first few games, it's been the Diacubs up by 2 to 3k gold by this point. A lot of it came down to not only the objective control, but just the individual CS leads. That hasn't changed here. I mean, you're still looking at both Poppy and Jin ahead of the clock.
Yasuo might be ahead of the clock soon too. He'll probably start eating some jungle camps, and Yasuo ahead of the clock is something that is very hard to deal with, and we said that he's a big part of this composition, so he needs to be ahead.
Certainly does. Phantom Dance is going to obviously help him in his ability to hit that magical 100% critical chance rate. As Farmer can't be too far away right now, just needs that nice little cape on his back to ensure that he has a bit of damage as well to boot. Infinity Edge will be there, and it'll be a bit more fun for him to game. Might see him go for a Storm Razor over. That's what he played in game number 1. And we can check in here with the gold sheet so far and see really what it actually means. And really, it is the bot lane difference, really, at this stage of the game.
So the gold lead is pretty much just purely on the AD carries. You know, hang on a minute, no flash on the Poppy.
Pick up the ultimate. Cannot disengage out of that one. Can't chuck up the shield and prevent the collapse. And just like that, 2 members show up and they take down Xeranis for a second time in a row. This is doing wonders here for Clint, because this means they can look to pressure top side even further. Build up some side lane pressure. And as we say though, Jubes, we're looking at a situation now where the Curtain's Call could be enough to try and take him out. Nope, flashing away from that 4th and final shot.
Okay.
Disengages away from what could have been a volley bear on his head. And as they disengage, they potentially try to turn things around, but flash for flash, you know, both supports really putting out so much pressure.
No, I would argue that the kills going over towards Clint in this game is best case scenario. They don't necessarily have a composition that kills on fast at all. And so the fact that he's this accelerated in this game is going to spell trouble when it comes to team fight and start fighting over these neutral objectives. And we may just see Ornn's real power in 30 seconds when this Infernal Dragon spawns.
Certainly could do. The Dragon apiece so far, nothing severing them on a objective standpoint. But what will happen when they go to force a fight? You mentioned what it means when Stormbringer is down, the ability to not be as tanky and inescapable from the CC that could come their way. Will they come back to buy them? Shockwave is still there, bear in mind, however. Well, the Forge Guard shouldn't be too far away here for Clint as well. So, Dragon spawning, mid-priority goes their way. And it seems like everybody's going to contest this one, 5v5.
Yep, and you'd have to say, you know, taking account of items and whatnot, I would argue that this is UQU's fight to win, right? You know, Diacubs probably shouldn't be contesting this one, but obviously it's going to come down to execution.
Can they get a smite still? If we're going for a 50-50, the spears keep on going on through. Not going to go for the empowered leap just yet. Diacubs pick up the second dragon. It goes their way. Now can it disengage away? The hook doesn't connect. They can run back to the safety of their own blue buff. And UQU will have to resign themselves to just ward clearing duties.
So
and,
what actually stopped
back to ping pong?
What actually stopped UQU from going in there was the fact that Ornn ult was on cooldown. It just came up cooldown. So, you know, the kill in the top lane that they managed to get actually ultimately ends up biting them there. They aren't able to pull the trigger and start the fight. And we're yet to see one Yasuo ult come through this game.
Yeah, hasn't really found a moment in which he can either find a tornado himself or find an ability to link up with his teammates that can assist in setting up that ultimate.
Jin's going to have a pretty big buy here. They have the Zeal and some. We're seeing pings on the top side of the map. There's a fight. Ornn Horn.
Certainly is. Out it comes. As soon as it's there, there's the ultimate. There's the one that you wanted to see right now, but it's a two-man chuck to try and follow things up with. Why not looking to disengage away? Doesn't have the ultimate, doesn't have a flash, and may not be able to assist his teammate. Karok falls on down. You said he'd have a ton of gold. Well, he can look to spend it when he's dead, but this means that the Union, just like that, can say we get a kill and we can get ourselves another objective.
Now, the bummer about that fight from Diacubs is Karok made his intentions quite clear. He said, guys, I really want a base. You know, we saw that from him. He channeled it once, he channeled it twice, and wasn't able to channel it a third time because Ornn pulled the trigger. And unfortunately, it's very hard to play Jin with no mobility into these types of compositions. And it looked pretty good for Diacubs. The shockwave was burned onto the Yasuo, it went quite low, but UQU just turned their focus onto the Jin and one-shot him.
That they certainly did. And that does mean that the Union will be able to find themselves a very small lead at just that. Some very important resources going their way, in particular for this Yasuo. That'll be his first kill and his first real kill participation of this game. And one that will continue to find him in a bit of a snowball situation. Not going to be too far away there from hitting the magical 100% crit chance, where the Yasuo dream no longer is a meme.
So, not much happening in the mid game right now, in the mid wave rather. Ornn's just on that side lane duty, and you know, at a certain point when Ornn gets accelerated, he is actually quite the menacing split pusher, especially with those demolish procs.
Yeah, could be very versatile in terms of his ability to 1v1, to force fights, to do everything in the stage. And he's just going to look to try and do it right here. And that's the link up between all members of the Union as they just come together as clean as you like. And the ultimate from the Caitlyn is enough to pick up the killing blow. That'll be Farmer's first kill of this game, and one that he so desperately needed to try and find himself ahead of this Jhin. And as you say, a frontline Ornn that can do it all becomes a very scary prospect. And they're just going to look to try and find a little bit more. They're not happy with a 1k gold. They want more. That second hero going their way will take them as mid-tier 1 as well.
It's just crazy to me that they weren't playing comps like this from the very start. You know, just look how comfortable they
Completely different
look.
performance.
Yeah, yeah. They just look so comfortable. And you know, look at that hook
two
land.
turrets. There's a max range shook, and there's Why Not just gone. Caitlyn finds it. The ruffle copter here from the Poppy. Well, he'll be laughing at himself because it achieves very little on that stage, but is able to survive on what was 10 HP.
Like, even Revenge looks like a different player, you know? Putting him on the Taric, putting him on the Karma just didn't look comfortable. Putting him on something like the Nautilus, you know, the set even, that's been permabanned, but this team just looks completely different.
Every hook he's thrown out so far this game has been either met with a flash to respect or a situation in which you are locked down and it is lights out for you just like that. What a big swing attempt, but that goes the way there for the Union. Up by 1k only moments prior, just like that. 2 turrets, a kill, and the extended lead to 3,000.
Yeah, 3,000 gold is quite a substantial lead at this point in the game, you know. We're talking 2 BF swords of a lead. So, you know, and we're actually talking 2 BF sword leads, and look at the Yasuo and the Caitlyn. They have the 2 BF sword lead.
They certainly do. And we're only a couple of levels away from when this Ornn can look to try and give them the goods, feed them the money, feed them the items, and just like that, 2 Infinity Edges there for the taking. Randuin's now a big question as to where it will come out, if it will at all. They do a lot at diminishing the damage that these two can output.
30 seconds on their next big objective, and probably going to see just permanent fighting now. I think no team's going to want to give up these dragons for free. Dire Cubs are in early. They're going to have the crab as well, so a little bit of a chunk coming down onto the Nautilus. Nidalee can heal him over there. We saw Jhin being cheeky while they were trying to walk through that death row there. That little choke there I call death row. Anyone who walks through there that's not got a high HP bar, generally the carry, they die.
Certainly do. It's a risky part of the map as you highlight. And this could be a risky situation right now as we are playing for the 4th dragon, one that the Dicos will be looking to try and give themselves a condition to play for and give them some very much needed matched power into what this tournament will present them.
They may give the dragon here just because, you know, Orianna did take a couple of spears to the head and he's quite chunked, but they're pinging on the way. Might be a smite fight.
Could be a late one. He flashes to try and steal it. Is not successful. There's the ultimate. Shockwave hits nothing. The combo completely unstuck, and just like that, Infinity Edges are the difference. Amateur finds backline Nexus, deletes one, deletes the second. Farmer gets in on the action, and the die comes up split apart. Karok sidestepping the spear. Doesn't want to be another casualty of this fight. They lose 3. They don't want to lose any more. Their bot lane running to the hills.
Yeah, unfortunately for Diacubs, Jin's just hitting the Ornn that whole fight and wasn't able to kill him. You know, level 13 power spike, ornament upgrades. Beautiful team fight coming out of UQ, you know. Like I said to you, Skimmy, last week, you either commit for the fight or you commit for the steal. You can't do both, and we saw Diacubs go for the steal, then try Shockwave off the steal that when Why Not's body was in there, and they weren't able to capitalize, weren't able to hit those abilities, and you know, UQU have extended this gold lead now just ever so slightly, as well as the Dragon.
They certainly have. And, I mean, just, as you say, you return back to the point again. This is their bread and butter. This is their style. This is what got them here today. Very interesting. It's almost like they got into their own heads, maybe over-prepping for a situation of how can we look to try and outplay our opponents and really throw them a curveball. And in the end, you know, it wasn't really any curveball that they were able to show. It was more a case of Diacups playing standard and saying, well, what can you actually do with this?
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's a bit weird they didn't go for Baron there, by the way. There was multiple members dead. They had Yasuo, Caitlyn, Nidalee still up. That Baron's going to go down pretty fast. But they opted out and didn't decide to go for it. Maybe they are feeling a little bit sorry for the Diacups.
Well, this could be an interesting situation because what could have been a very quick and an easy grand final for the Diacups could have been a 3-0 on the night. This has definitely changed the tune of things. And I suppose we sort of came into this one and said that, you know, UKU, they are a lot of new players right now. Obviously, for Farmer, he probably carries the most amount of experience on this team, having played in the OCS from 2018 as well. What is it like? I mean, you obviously played in a fair share of best of fives yourself. Might have to hold that thought for a second as Amateur looks like he's going to get jumped upon right there. The righteous boy with the Orianna Shockwave and the ability to lock you down and say if you're going to try and turn that way, here's a binder, you're rooted, you're taken out of the equation. Unshaka doesn't want any part of that one. And just like they find a kill top side, Drennis might be a casualty in the bottom side as Clint steals it away and ensures that at ultimate, Farmer, you're not able to get yourself a 4th kill.
Look, I'm pretty sure that the Ornn was actually just going to win that one in isolation anyway, but yeah, it's a traded kills there. You'd have to say though, Diacup's got to be happy with that. Taking the Yasuo down as opposed to the 0-4-0 Poppy. Not really a worth trade coming out of UKU, especially because they lose a lot of tempo on the map now. Orianna's had a lot of time to just farm this one up in the top side of the map. Nidalee's opting in for a solo kill maybe.
Looking for it. There's the trap, reveals. Spear connects, sidesteps into it. Now there's the poke, the ball continues. He flies off cooldown, pass goes into nothing, trying to juke out what could have been another spear. Coming his way. There's a teleport from the Union, and they're going to say, well, what are you going to do when it's a 4v1? Not much. Knock up, headbutt, spear, sweet dreams.
Now if they don't do Baron off this, that TP was just not worth it. You know, if you're teleporting for 1 kill, it is really never worth. But what this TP does is that they won't even commit to the smite. They'll just use this Baron to get Diacups close enough so that they can turn and use the on ult to start a fight with the Yasuo. So watch this one play out.
Well, let's see how they play it. Union committing members in the area, committing numbers on the Baron itself. Only Clint there on defense. He's got the Call of the Forge God, and he's going to use it very early on to ensure that that will not be stolen out. But no, R2 does not connect because he gets banned, as you quite rightly highlight. That's going to be Unshackled, jumping the distance, going for the steal. And they look to hold the Baron just low enough to prevent the smite coming on through. He jumps in, but too little too late. The Union got everything they wanted at the 25-minute mark. 11 kills to 2. The goal difference continued to favor them. They get Baron.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good Baron. It's really well executed. There's the comms are, we're not 50-50 in smite. We're not going to let them get close to smite. Once the Ornn ult gets disengaged, they still have the Nautilus flash and the Nautilus to pull the trigger, and that's what they did there. And when you have the gold lead that they have, those kind of fights really favor you. Yasuo just absolutely one-shotting the Volibear there. You know, he does a good job getting into the pit, why not? But you know, Jin having to flash away as well is crucial in the next team fight.
Certainly is. And situation now where they can look to definitely siege up and find themselves their very first inhibitor with that short duration of the Baron buff itself, but one that they are very happy with. Level 15's there. The first benefactor of the Ornn will be the Caitlyn. 16, and we're looking at a situation where the Yasuo can pop off as well. Between those two, they've really risen up to the occasion, and showcasing that from games 1 to here, that the Caitlyn on that first pick rotation does justify its position.
It seems like whoever has the better KDA actually gets the Infinity Edge upgrade. I'd be a little bit sad. Never mind. Yasuo's just got his 1-2.
Baron, ornaments, and a dragon as well. They put themselves into a soul point to play for if they need it at that 32-minute mark, but within the next few moments, no doubt now looking for waves to prep and waves to push, as they will commit a lot of numbers in the area to this bot wave, which is in the right place at the right time, with cannons to empower as well. He set themselves up for inhibitor, but as I said, I'm looking at the minimap. I can see that Nidalee's pushing through mid. I can see a ping onto Yasuo, who's going for what appears to be a 1v2 at the blue buff. He's just going to go at it. He doesn't care. Can he try and shoot those skill shots? Can he try and deny what comes his way? Can he lifesteal enough? He cannot. That is the answer, as simple as it is. Flashing forward, goes for the spear. Wave respects it and says, I could have died to that one at max range, so he'll flash too. And now it seems to be that the Nidalee is just looking to try and buy time for the siege that's taking place bot side to try and pick up this inhibitor for free.
This might be worth it though. If they pick up the Nidalee kill here, then you know they stop that inhibitor going down, and it's going to be worth it, but Revenge might be caught here. Italy still trying to stop bases. Shockwave still down for a while. We don't see what's happening, but Orianna has cancelled the base. Orianna's going to die.
Yep. Stuck around a little bit too long there, and 3 autos will do it. Farmer incredibly strong at this stage of the game with 2 BF swords already there for the taking, and a ton of critical chance already as well. Makes very light work of what was a Orianna stuck between a rock and a hard place. They'll be down now for another 30 seconds, and whilst they weren't able to achieve an inhibitor, they might be looking to just play tutorial League of Legends here, Jews, and just take every single structure that surrounds the space.
Kind of looks like it, right? Doesn't look like we're going to get a really important fight now break out. After this turret goes down, they might call it quits. Baron buff is expiring. They may look to play for this dragon, see some resets come out, and looks like that's what's going to happen. Yasuo taking... Is he taking red? That's nasty. And Yasuo is taking... Okay, he stopped. He opted out. I thought for a second he might take the red buff.
As the cannon, right?
Yeah.
You'd be thinking, hang on a minute, mate. Look at the items I have. I've got a rapid fire cannon as well now. I need that red buff.
Yeah, and I'd be telling him to pull his head in real quick.
But he does. He heard the calls, heard the comms, and said, okay, I won't grief my teammate here today. Up by 7k are UQU at the 30-minute mark, and playing devil's advocate, what is really the invitation for the Dire Cubs to come back to this one? Because we've seen situations where the goal has been 10k and you still think there's a chance. What does it look like here?
I mean, I look at the itemization coming through from UQU, and I think it is a very hard uphill battle now for Dire Cubs. Potentially what we need to see from them is just a really good front-to-back team fight on the Jhin. A Shockwave lands onto the Caitlyn. And once you take Caitlyn out of the equation, the Yasuo becomes, able to deal with. You have the Poppy, you've got enough CC to be able to really stop the Yasuo from moving and just kill him with the Jhin 4th bullet. The problem that they're having is that it's not just Yasuo, it's also the Caitlyn. So, if either one goes down at the start of a fight and they're able to really just play a good front to back, it is probably winnable, but in saying that, I don't think anyone's getting through clean anytime soon, so it's almost like the fight has to take place past the Ornn. You have to really just be running past the Ornn to finish it before UQU finishes you.
Hoping for an avenue which perhaps he overexerts himself, tries to zone away too many targets at the expense of his teammate, then getting jumped upon. You can see Clint has gone for the full measure, also gone for the elixir as well, and as you quite rightly point out, that was why not looking to try and make something happen. It might be successful. There's the shutdown. 6-0 was he before, now 6-1 with a big bout of shutdown goal going the way here for Cupcake. And just like you wanted, that's what they'll get.
Yeah, and I would like to see them just dive here too. They have the Volibear ulti. Let's pull the trigger again. Caitlyn's dead. That's a significant chunk of gold dead. They can dive this. This is a dive.
Look at it. Blast code in. They're going to find a smite. They're going to find a target. They're going to stun him. Shockwave, curtain call. Can they find him? They do! Both the key carriers of the Union are gone. They might be looking for the flip of the century right here. They want it to be a 3-0. They want to show that, look, we have been the most consistent team all season long in the OCS. We want to match you when it comes to structural impacts. Yes, 7 turrets to 4. But with 2 big picks like that, we might have just given ourselves enough gold going into this next Baron and Dragon fight.
So that's how they win, Skimmy. Just like that. Just like that. Dire Cubs seem to do this a lot, It looks like it's done and dusted. You look at the itemization and you think, okay, there's just no way the Yasuo, the Caitlyn don't do enough damage to win these fights. Orianna's still behind a significant amount in terms of itemization. Jhin, you'd have to say, is pretty much dead even just because of the CS disparity. When you look at the Ornn, there's 3 items there. Poppy's only got 2, and one of them really isn't even a tank item. It's more of a damage build. So, the game's still in UQU's favor, but that's just a nice little stern reminder that the game is losable. Now, they're down tempo on this dragon. Potentially, they just lose the Infernal Soul here.
Question is, will they go for the contest? Orianna's flash is not available just yet. Does have the Shockwave. That's the important thing to note right now. No Stormbringer, and no knockback for the Cocktail of the Poppy, but they've managed to try and put themselves into a position here to steal it away. Out comes the call of the Forge God. Where will it go? Into the ramp. They've stolen away the Dragon so far. Yasuo going deep. He's looking for that key target. No death yet. Out comes the laser. There goes Orianna. The Shockwave means nothing. Cupcake zoned away. Forced to flash away as Unshackled finds a second. And they say, yeah, you can find that Dragon, but we'll just find you. We're not flipping this game just yet. We're not giving you the perfect fairy tale scenario here. We're going to put you down in the dirt. We're going to put you down and dead for as long as possible. Find a kill and find a base to take down with you.
The Jhin Kalrock actually played that decently well, was able to kind of get a little bit of distance and kite with his auto attacks, but the Yasuo auto attack actually crit him and he just got sent straight to the Shadow Realm. And yeah, it was a really well played fight from UQU. The Ornn ultimate, so Zoranus was actually trying to cancel the Ornn ultimate, so what you can do is Poppy, you put up your Poppy W, I don't know what it's called, you know, the little ring that stops dashes? Poppy was trying to do that to stop the Ornn ult, so if you get in range of Ornn, he can't headbutt his ulti back for the second part of it. And he was so close to denying Ornn ult, but instead Clint got it off and gave Yasuo backline access to Wei and Kalrock, so really a team fight of inches there.
Well, Juves, they're going to find one inhibitor, but no more than just that. They've afforded Diacubs another lifeline in a situation where you think they probably shouldn't have found it. The gold lead will not change, but that means that they can say, well, we didn't win the Dragon fight. We have a chance to go for the Baron.
But why didn't they take inhibitors, by the way?
$1 million question. Maybe feeling the pressure.
Now they watch way too many LS VODs. They watch way too many LS VODs.
This is risky. Will they steal it? Will they secure it? They're not going to get it. Unshackled can't even get himself into the Baron pit right now. That's the Diacubs down by 7k. But they got a Baron buff to boot. Jhin is zoned away. He receives a depth charge, but he doesn't care about it. Blast comes himself to the safety of his own jungle.
I bet you they wish they took the inhibs now.
Oh no. Max range spear just expires before it could tickle. Way back to the base, back to what could be a second inhibitor soon to follow. Lux Shield OP denies away so much of that damage. A top inhibitor being threatened, a top inhibitor is surely to fall on down. But they're going into a team now that have a Baron buff to fight you with.
Wait, they're not taking the inhib again. I'm actually gonna...
Why?
I'm actually gonna puke.
Why,
I'm actually gonna puke, by the way.
It's on 10 HP.
No, I'm actually gonna puke.
Well,
Anyone else puking?
Union. I don't know what to say at this stage. There's safe and then there's oversafe at this stage.
This is what happens, dude, when you watch League of Legends VODs on YouTube and you take them too literally. When LS says to take an inhibitor because it denies farm, this is what they've done. They've studied LS VODs and now they've ended up sinning.
What was a huge gold lead favouring them now has been shrunk to around about the 5k mark. Yes, there are still ornaments to take into consideration. There are a fair few at this stage, with essentially everybody, apart from Revenge, having been buffed up as a result of it. But they are giving Diacubs so many opportunities to continue to be allowed to not only come out of their base, but not feel too threatened by what their opposition present them with.
No, the problem we have now is that gold lead, it's still relevant for sure.
Oh no.
I hit the blast cone. Doubles on yous. Okay.
Orianna. CC going away, or why not? Both the tanks look to try and soak up the damage. Revenge being an absolute hero. Pops the stone plate and says, don't worry, I'll die for you. You run away, you survive, you live to tell the tale.
This game's getting very problematic and fast.
Look, UQU could have got those inhibitors, and the Diacubs now, based on that final pick, going into this one at 5v4, could be looking to get an inhibitor of their own. And if they find more Jupes, they could look to end the game.
If you take those inhibitors, by the way, you literally get a free soul. You know that, right? Earlier. Anyway, here we are now. Why not?
Fantastic.
Why not put the ball on him? Keep your eyes on it.
Eyes on the volley bet. Where will he go? What will he do? And how will they achieve it? As you say, the inhibitor will fall on down to mid-wave. That'll equal out things.
Big spear.
Here he goes. Stormbringer. Shockwave does not connect. R2 on the corner of the Forge God zones them all away. They all turn golden. They all try and prevent the Amatul wombo combo dream being coming out here from the Yasuo. And Clint, he's overextended. He's tanky, but not tanky enough when 5 members surround him. They've lost another target. You said it was easy soul point. Both teams looking for it. Both teams in trouble. Unshackled. Don't do it. He's falling on down. The game was in their hands, Duke. This was their game.
Yasuo is pinned. Oh no,
down. He's flashing away.
Hang on.
He's doing whatever he can. He needs the life steal. He's got a death dance.
Yasuo
for a dream. He comes back in with the ultimate. He's trying his hardest, but he falls on down. Farmer, he tried to be a hero. He tried to put his team on his back and say, what are we doing here, guys? It's not going to matter. That's going to be an ace. And with them being down for such a long time, forget the soul point. Just go for the end.
Wait a minute. Can I just say, Zoranus deserves a lot of credit for that last team fight. So not many people would credit, you know, the tank gameplay there, but Zoranus actually poppy-copted Yasuo as well as someone else out of that fight, and we might have the OCS champions, Skimmy.
Why not? Will fall on down to the turret. That's the second turret falling on down. Now looking for the end. They're trying to go for the 3-0. They've got the damage. They've got the numbers. Clint can't do much about this one. They're flashing, they're dashing, they're hoping for a dream and a prayer. The unthinkable has happened here. The Die Cubs will be the Die Cubs and will become your champions of the OCS for 2020.
You have to say it, Skimmy. Die Cubs are a team that's really deserved it. You know, they've been the best team we've had all year, you know, through different players, iterations of players, different bot lanes, you name it, they've done it. Different junglers, different supports, they've remained at the top and they haven't really lost a game. Yes, they did lose that one game in the best of 3, but ultimately they have been the best team for the whole year and, you know, they've remained the same throughout the grand finals. So congratulations to the Die Cubs and what they're doing over there in their development squads.
That they certainly are. First place during a regular season, first place in the championship itself as well. When we played Devil's Advocate, we said what would happen when you're down by this amount of gold. We've seen stranger things happen, and the unthinkable happened here today. What was looking like a very long best-of-5 series, just like that, flips off and turns into a complete amount of chaos that now means that the Die Cubs will take the grand finals 3-0.
And you know, yes, it's fantastic, and congratulations to the Die Cubs for winning, but now we have some serious players to look at in terms of, you know, who's taking the next step now? You know, you win the OCS, there's got to be some players in there that are ready for the OPL next year. You know, for me, when I look at that roster, right, Cupcake, of course, can walk into an OPL team if he wants to, but obviously, you know, he's got other things that he's doing right now, and maybe, who knows, maybe this reignites his fire and he wants to come back 2021, but you've got players like Calrock who have had, for me, standout years, and in that game specifically, he really had, like, you know, he looked like a veteran in that game. He was playing Jhin in a very hard to execute composition and was able to just remain relevant, continue doing damage, and potentially we see him, you know, picked up next year. So there's just a lot of questions, but probably not the time for it. They should just, you know, be happy, celebrate, and congratulations again.
That they certainly should be. We asked the question at the start of this series, you know, would experience come in as a big factor here? Obviously, the Die Cubs had a whole host of experience under their belts, many years of playing at the top level, from OCS to OPL, you name it, they've probably been there. And in the end, it was enough of that mental edge for them to hold their own, say, look, guys, this game is far from over. It was essentially a 10k gap they were facing, given the ornaments taken into equation. A situation in which you thought, how can they come back in this one? How can the Union actually pull this game into a long best-of-5 series? But they've done it, they've managed it, and the Die Cubs can pat themselves on the back for a very well-deserved 2020 championship.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, I believe this might be their second or second time winning OCS. I'd have to check the history books, but I know they got very close one year. They had Topoon and stuff in the top lane. So, you know, everything the Die Cubs are doing in terms of development and, you know, what they're using their facility for and how they're helping their teams and their players get better and achieve their goals, you know, it has to be a testament to what they're doing there and who they've got in place and the systems they've got in place.
Well, as you said there, Juves, I think you rounded up perfectly. There's a lot of players on this team to look forward to going into next year. A lot of players that may be looking to make their next step up in the Oceanic region for League of Legends. That's going to do it here for the OCS for 2020. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to our amazing sponsors in Neosurf, EPOS, and Macca's as well. And for myself, Juves, all the production staff, and everybody from behind the scenes, thank you for tuning in. We're going to still be here for more Oceanic action starting off tomorrow, where the semi-finals in the OPL, the Premier Championship, will be kicking off. We'll see you then. And that's a beautiful Hemo play, gone to multiple members, they shut down all importantly onto Chippies. He gets himself a double kill.
Triple kills, can we get a quadra? Yes we can. It's Raze doing what he does, the team fight king.
You can only use these ingredients, and you can only cook with this thing. Hey,
I'm excited.
It's like a fairy pooped in a cup. Big shout out to the little legends that we created. So we've got the Fury Horn there, and then this is the like mystery egg the graphics operator was making instead of that last graphic.
Guys, I want Twitch chat to do it with me. Make sure your chest hits the ground like this, that's 4. And don't be afraid to go a little bit faster or a little bit slower. Just do what's comfortable, okay?
My long-term boyfriend and I broke up over a month ago. How do I start dating again? Rusty, you're lonely.
Finally, your ideal Valentine's Day date.
PC Vaughn, Duo Q, League of Legends.
Oh, very nice.
I think Bombers started them off quite well, but they just got outplayed on like a micro level, and I am really good at this.
Send this to Frost Urine.
So who here wants a really mediocre painting of Gragas? It is a time for celebration, but it is also a time for mourning.
Let's start off with a eulogy.
5 Drakes to the name, a Baron and everything else.
In a counter matchup.
That's the carbon response. That's that's the legacy win right there.
Is anyone wearing pants?
Oh, you're wearing pants.
Some shorty boys. Look at that.
What has this become?
There's no AFL, there's no NRL, but there is always OPL. Come rain, hail or shine,